Sorry, I had to cough. What was line?
Oh, by the way, Viris, your sister is in town.
Oh, by the way, Viris, your sister's in town.
My sister's made it back?
It would seem so.
And you know this how?
She found me, actually. She wanted me to send you a letter.
So she heard that I was under your employment.
She heard that I knew how to get in contact with you.
I see. Well, I suppose I should go see
Don't
her.
believe the fact that you're in my employment is a public knowledge statement.
Yes, but she has her way of extracting information. I'm sure one of your men might have let it slip.
Unlikely.
Does Demeter look
Where-
disappointed? She has ways of extracting information. He's like, "Ah, not from me."
Where's she staying?
I think we actually came up with a name for the inn, but I don't remember what it was.
The menagerie.
Fuck. No.
The
It had a
toolbox
way
with 3
less
X's.
sex clubby name than that.
Demeter's crane. Doesn't even make sense. I just thought it was funny.
I don't remember what it was called. Is there anything in the chat?
We're going with Demeter's crane.
I don't think there's any.
No, we're not.
Very
We're
well.
not going with Demeter's crane.
I suppose I can see her in the morning.
Oh yeah, huh? It's late.
It
Right?
is.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, by the way, you should be expecting a shipment from either Renshaw or Gwyn. I don't know who's going to actually be handling it. But I asked them to send us something from the Shather Hills.
Oh. Do you care to disclose what you'll be shipping?
Viris nods and says, apparently, their duelists are using a method of doping that I find a little bit distasteful. And I'm not going to let my protege fall at the hands of this rabble.
Callum, I think.
Callum, yes.
Altman
Callum? And I'm not going to
Callum.
let Altman fall at the hands of this rabble. Because of this substance.
Beat
Once
them
it
by
arrives,
joining them.
Oh, go ahead.
Beat them by joining them.
If that's what it takes, I'll leave it up to Altman what he wants to do, but I'm going to allow him to choose. He'll have a long day ahead of him whenever we get to the to the court.
I imagine we'll all have a long day when we get to the court.
Yes, but his will be life or death. Something you haven't had to worry about in some time, Demeter.
Have you met your sister?
I did break into her room for some reason.
I had to size up whether or not I could take her.
It's the only way Demeter knows how to interact with anybody.
Randall's like, I don't know, could go either way. Demeter starts sweating.
I just sit in their room in the dark and wait for them to come home. I don't know why people get so upset about it.
Step 1, invade privacy.
Fucking
Step 2, offer to sell privacy back for exorbitant cost.
These fucking snowflakes, they're so sensitive. Oh, you broke into my house. You looked through my things.
You
Get
didn't
over
look
it.
through her diary, did you?
Of course I didn't look through her diary.
Very well.
What I look like, some sort of sicko.
If you could
Of
deliver
course, I
that,
didn't look through her diary. It wasn't there.
if you could make sure that delivery arrives at my dojo whenever it arrives, that would be most kind of you.
Of course.
Viris nods. Anything else? He kind of looks between Ray and Demeter.
Oh, I thought I had left.
I think you're still there. I think all three of us are there.
No, nothing from Ray.
Nothing from Devin.
This doesn't concern him.
Just like in that case, 5 minutes ago, Ray said, "Don't you fuckers ever shut up?"
Now Ray's probably gone. He just goes home, stays up late, being upset, and goes to sleep.
Excellent.
I go home and eat all the leftovers from our dinner that got interrupted. I make a day after Thanksgiving
Cheers.
sandwich.
Dude, Thanksgiving sandwiches are the shit. Alright. What about Demeter and Viris?
Would going to the dojo at this time make sense? Like, is there places to sleep there, or am I sleeping in a hotel like when I'm here? Where, or do I have like a room in the castle, or how does this work?
Demeter
Good
can arrange
question.
room for you.
Isn't he like like air quotes a prisoner right now? In very big fucking air quotes.
Yeah, I don't think you can leave
Yeah.
officially, unofficially.
I think the Chancellor neglected to tell you this, but you really shouldn't leave the
Don't leave
King's
town.
Manor.
Wait,
Like-
leave what?
The King's Manor.
Yeah.
Like, you should stay in the House of Adderchance
Gotcha.
tonight.
Then I will approach a servant and tell her to lead me to my room.
How do you know it's her?
She does so.
Because
can
it is
Tell from a distance, Cody. It's not that hard.
I mean, but he shouldn't assume. This is what I'm saying.
I approach a female servant.
I approach it. And I tell them that I'd like to go to sleep now.
I want to know the distribution of male to female servants in this castle, because I feel like this is important.
Probably like 80-20.
Okay. Good to know.
So 40% are lesbian.
The 80
and
being
10% are gay males.
80 being women.
Yeah.
No, those are space game percentages, dude.
Ah,
This is medieval times.
so
with
like
different percentages.
60% of the women are gay and 15% are.
No, there's probably like 3 gay people in the whole city.
Everyone in
outwardly
medieval
gay.
times is bisexual.
Ah,
It's not true.
it's ideal.
All the gods are gay, though. So there's that.
Base.
Gods?
All the, or goddesses, really, are all lesbians.
Wait, so religiously being gay is okay?
Religion doesn't really care about, like,
You said all the gods are gay.
marriage or sexuality at all. Like, they don't really do the whole Christian thing of, like, telling people how to fuck.
And what's stopping people from being gay?
They haven't invented it yet.
Okay, you're right.
The gays actually invent the apostrophe also. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, apostrophes weren't invented when the game started. Forgot about that.
Demeter actually invented it.
with his the wenches.
The
tavern.
Wretch's Way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Demeter invented ownership.
People
No
come.
one owned anything before
People travel from far and wide. And he like sells tickets. Like, come on, come all. Look at the sign, the little line I put on my sign. What does it mean? Where did it come from? Some say it
What is
came
it?
from.
Is it a tiny testicle? Yes. It means that the way belongs to the wretch.
wow.
Fascinating.
So what do you guys do?
I go to sleep.
Demeter?
I believe I'm done antagonizing people for the night, so I go to sleep.
Excellent.
You don't go steal back the letter from
Wait,
Pierce.
I checked my journal. I need to make my itinerary. I need to make sure that I have no one left to antagonize. Let's see.
You haven't really got into it with the Chancellor lately.
No, I think we have. I think it happened today.
You should definitely go steal the letter back from Pierce for like a 5th time. And then when you meet up with her tomorrow, be like, lose something.
Looking for this?
She will kick you in the nuts if you do.
I should just burn this letter. This letter is a fucking horcrux at this rate.
She was so mad when you gave it to her the second time.
I don't believe I have anyone left to antagonize.
You could have been with an empty feeling.
Oh. You lose 4 hit points. Your stomach aches. All right. Next day. What's Demeter doing?
Excellent. Demeter, yes.
All of your antagonisms have refreshed.
They're all off cooldown.
They're all cooldown. Okay,
Yes!
excellent. Will somebody be? Will Viris have a counsel for his court summons? Does he need?
Representation?
Does he need representation? Have you invented representation yet?
Are you gonna be his lawyer?
Yeah. Yeah, I think lawyers exist.
Oh my god, it's gonna be awesome.
Huh.
Weren't you
Yeah,
Weren't you the lawyer in our Halloween game?
I was the lawyer. I believe I was the prosecution or the defense, maybe both. I don't really remember.
So I was found guilty and made to apologize by Russell.
we fucking hijacked Randall's Halloween game to do court game for an hour.
I remember so clearly though, because the whole premise going in was like, oh yeah, people are just gonna die left and right. So fuck, I don't remember his name. The guy we were playing Cyberpunk with, he dies like in the first like 10 minutes, and then just nothing happened, and he just had to sit there like an asshole for like 2 hours while nobody else died.
Oh fuck.
Yeah,
that
because
was
instead of killing more people, you guys decided you really wanted to talk about the one dead guy.
What does this mean?
Someone must be held accountable.
Apparently it was me. I'm like, good. That's out of the way. Let's get back to all dying.
But at least you apologize, so it all worked out in the end. Yeah, Demeter will. This is probably something that happens early in the day, right? The court,
The antagonisms? Oh, the court.
I thought that was the day after.
the
Yeah,
fucking
they were
kangaroo court.
gonna skip one day.
Oh, so today is not the kangaroo court day.
Right.
Yep.
I
The day
have a
is
duty
yours to
verify.
antagonize.
Yeah, they wanted
Oh.
one day in between to like potentially figure shit out and come up with like a better idea than just winging it. Viris got back at like fucking midnight basically, and then like everyone stayed up till 4 a.m. talking about how much of a fucking terrorist he is.
Yeah. I check my I open up my my cell phone, I check my inbox. Anything about my siege maker guy yet? Any updates on that? Junk mail, junk mail. Bills.
No, still no reply from that.
Shit.
Demeter would know that it takes a pretty long time to get messages in and out of the Bloodican Mountains.
Shit. Demeter takes the day off. Demeter takes a me day.
What?
I'm trying to think if I have anything to do. Like what? I think all of my things are pending.
Okay.
Go to someone else. I'll come back to me. I'll think about it.
Cool. What does Viris do? You have a day before your hearing.
I go see my sister at Crane's Landing.
Crane's Landing.
Okay.
Crane Landing is really
At Demeter's Crane.
maybe it's spelled different though.
As Viris is on his way out, he runs into Chancellor Guido, and the Chancellor says, "Oh, good morning, Viris."
Chancellor?
He says, seeing that you're kind of walking toward the exit, he says, "I should probably tell you, just for optics' sake, you'd best stay concealed."
You're
I'd
saying that I should
rather-
stay in the castle?
He nods and says, "If you have to go out for something, you should do it in disguise. But yes, it would be best to stay in the castle. Unfortunately, we have to keep up appearances that you're something of a prisoner at the moment. And, well, no one within these walls will let that secret out. But no knowing once it's in the streets."
That's fair. I was actually just going to speak with both my sister and then later with Kellum. But if I must stay here, would it be possible for you to send word to my sister and Kellum?
Of course. Altman will be here in a couple of hours, actually. He says, looking at his itinerary, says, he's coming for a lesson with the king.
Ah, he's training him, is that right?
Yes. King Aaron intends to also fight in a duel at Langstana. Who better to train him than the man who looks to fight in 40?
It might be best if I train the king from now on. But I'll have word with the king about that. Callum needs to focus on his own training. If he's going
Chancellor
to survive
nods.
this 40.
And says, I'm sure the king would agree with you.
I nod.
As for your sister, I confess I don't know her. Has she ever been to court?
She hasn't, right?
Nope. She is very, very much keeps to herself.
But she does the cartography for the kingdom? Or she's like drawn some of the maps?
She's not very often credited for her work. Like, a lot of her maps are sold without, like, her name attached to them in any way.
Gotcha. Then I will give him her name and where she's staying. Her name is Pirsha. She's staying at Demeter's Crane or something.
Decreasingly verbose.
Canonized.
Crane's place.
Jeff.
She's staying at Crane's Landing.
Jeff, you're the worst.
I mean, the Garden of Secrets got canonized before this. It's open season.
She's staying at one of Demeter's hotels, I believe.
It's not Demeter's.
I thought he owns everything in the city.
Jeff.
They are in.
Jeff ruined everything.
We haven't invented hotels yet. No, I think we did, didn't we? We did say that that's how I knew that she was staying at.
Demeter knew where she was staying, so I'll just tell
Right.
him the location that she's staying and her name, Pirsha.
Yeah.
So you're saying Demeter doesn't
He
know
says,
the
I'll send a boy.
I know.
Boy, that's a precious commodity. Like 1 in 5 odds.
I nod. Does the Chancellor normally leave the castle this early? Or like, do I know what he normally does?
Yeah, he does. He does all kinds of shit, but
Okay,
yeah,
so-
you would often see him like leaving and coming. He's probably the busiest person in the court,
Gotcha.
and then like relatively close behind him would be the king.
Gotcha. Then if that's the case, I'd say, perfect. I appreciate you getting her attention for me. Is there anything you need me for? Or anything that I can do around the castle for you while you're out? Since I'll be stuck here.
He says, no, I don't think so. In fact, between you and me, it might be better if you didn't do too much more. You've done quite enough.
I feel like you're insulting me, Chancellor.
Wow.
Nobody insults me and gets away with it.
Yeah.
Draws his blade.
I throw my goblet down.
He kind of smiles as he rolls up his itinerary and walks past you and says, perhaps we'll just say Princess Raoul is off limits for now. And he walks away.
I mean, of course, she's not blonde.
Wait, isn't she like?
17?
Which one is she? She's like the child one, right?
Is she?
They're
No,
the middle
she's
one.
18.
Oh, awesome.
Smashable.
Natra's
20.
20, Raoul's 18.
The other one is 12.
So all bets are off.
Says 11.
I mean, Viris, at this point, now you have to have sex with her just to fucking stick it to him. You cannot tell you what you
He
can and
literally
cannot do.
told you it's off limits. Like, no one tells Viris what to do.
Off limits, you say, as he rubs his hands together.
What do you do now, Viris? I go to find the princess.
Cody
Do you care for some
immediately
fishing,
changes
milady?
his mind. He's like, I I thought that I didn't have anything to do. But I actually need to talk to Brett's stat.
Let's play a new game called How Much Shit Can He Get Away With before King Aaron is like, dude, stop.
All right, yeah, we have to kill you now. But as your lawyer, you have to stop doing this.
As your legal counsel, I must advise against this.
I advise my client not to sleep with that woman.
I did not have sex.
Yeah.
Don't speak to the cops.
Oh God. We're gonna need to assign you some more permanent legal counsel.
I go to the food hall. I'm going to take a nice, relaxing day to myself.
You go there. You see Princess Relwyn and Princess Mysa eating.
Princesses? I give a slight bow. They don't have like preferred handmaidens like Natra? That they're like best friends with?
Probably not.
Gotcha.
The princess may be off limits, but what about her favorite handmaid?
Yeah, I just say princesses, give a slight bow, and then I keep walking.
You don't eat with them.
Not unless they specifically invite me to.
I think Relwyn just gives like a gesture for you to sit. Doesn't say anything though.
You're certain?
And she says, "Of course.
Sure, I'll sit
You're a
across
knight
from
now."
I'll sit across from them.
Relwyn says, "What brought you back?"
I got in some trouble with the with King Garzash. And King Royko didn't want to stick up for me much longer. I was a liability in his lands. So they sent me home.
You can tell from her expression that she has heard nothing and doesn't much understand the context of what you're saying. And her response is just, "Well, I'm sure things will blow over."
I think they will as well. Especially once the court rolls around in a couple of months. I think all will be handled by then. But worry not, your sister is safe.
Relwyn says, "Has Natra found any interesting suitors?"
From the two places that we visited, she didn't seem much interested in Prince Jax or the duelist from House Roik. And
Did you meet
she
Prince
hasn't...
Jax?
I did.
Is he as beautiful as they say he is?
He is. He's a hell of a duelist as well.
Really?
Yes. I'd put him on...
That must be unusual. I don't think many princes learn how to fight.
I think
Well, not really, anyways.
I'd put him somewhere along Altman's level, but I think he would probably lose in a real duel just because he's never actually faced the fear of death.
Who is Altman?
My replacement, the duelist for your father.
Oh,
You've not met him.
is he the very large man who's training father?
Aye. That should be him.
Well, he looks like he's strong as an ox.
He's second best in the West. He ought to be. You should introduce yourself. He has...
But he is... And she kind of trails off and doesn't finish the sentence and says, "Why do you think he should meet me?"
I think it's important for commoners to meet the royals. They're giving their life for you, after all. And he has a long and arduous ahead of him, especially at court. There's a good chance he might not make it back.
She looks like she thinks about that for a second and then says, "Perhaps I should give him a prize. A handkerchief or something."
I think you'd be surprised that just your time might actually liven his spirit quite a bit. He
She
might
nods
not,
and thinks about that.
perhaps inviting him to join you at the table for dinner or something. How much time has he spent with the king, would I reckon?
Altman?
Yeah.
I think the king has only decided in the last 48 hours that he wants to learn how to duel again.
Yeah, so
probably not much.
Okay, yes. So my point is that he's putting his life on the line for you royals. I think it would greatly benefit him and your country should he know the people that he is fighting for, at the very least.
She just nods and seems to kind of just take that very matter-of-factly on board.
Is there anything you two have planned for the day?
Rowan just kind of looks at Misa and says, "Well, we both have some studying to do." And Misa looks down at her food and looks kind of upset when Rowan says that. And she says, "But there will be some time for other things later. Perhaps I'll meet this duelist."
I hope you do.
Thank you for sharing the gossip from your travel. It gets very boring here.
Yes, I can imagine, and I can only imagine that you're worrying about your sister as well, especially while she's in foreign countries.
She looks like she thinks that She looks almost like she's done something wrong, and says, "Should I have been? I wasn't really. I think. I don't know. War seems like such a distant concept. There's been peace for so long."
It's best not to get complacent, especially with warmongers like Gazash out there.
But nobles from other kingdoms come here all the time, and they're never afraid. They don't bring retainers, or sometimes they don't even bring guard.
That's because no royal is foolish enough to lay hand on another royal. Except for Gazash. He's the reckless one of the bunch.
You know, people say King Exelat is a brute.
Yeah, excellent.
He's the black one.
I did.
Not wrong.
That wasn't me. It wasn't me.
I could tell by the way that he was saying, like, he was like, okay. I could tell he was opening up the.
Yeah,
the
I opened
thing
up the
to be
court
like-
ledger. I was like, Winterlands.
No children, 5 brothers.
Is that true? I've not heard much about Axelat.
He's black, she says.
She shrugs and says,
He's the black one.
"He's a warrior, like father used to be, but, well, he's much younger, so I suppose he still fights."
Is that so?
She nods and says,
I've not heard of him being a
Apparently-
warmonger, though.
Not among the other kingdoms, but apparently he's sent many raiding parties north into the tribeslands.
This intel, where does it come from?
She shrugs and says, "Just rumors. It could be completely fabricated. I pay attention to what's interesting."
Viris kind of smiles and says, Princess Rollin, are you a gossip?
She blushes a little bit and says, "I have been called that many times by my sister."
He kind of like looks at Mesa.
Mesa says, "Natra."
So you don't peg her as a gossip?
Mesa smirks and says, "I'm a gossip too."
But not Natra.
She thinks for a second, and Ralwyn says, "Natra is..." And Mesa says, "She'd never let anyone know about it. She's very proper and very concerned with her image."
Viris would kind of let out a slight laugh and then say, yes, Princess Anita at House Roik got onto her about that, actually.
Rowan says, "You've met Princess Nita."
I have.
"I heard she's very, exotic."
Exotic? What do you mean?
She shrugs and says, "Well, people just talk. She has tattoos. Her hair is white." She shrugs and says, "Just the sort of thing people say."
I'd label her a bit of a free spirit that's been caged.
Mesa says, think that's all Princess is.
You two don't seem like very much of free spirits. And Natra doesn't seem like one either.
Mesa looks very offended by that and says, my spirit's free, but it's caged.
Is that so?
She nods matter-of-factly.
Your father won't let you go out?
No, he lets us go out.
Then how are you caged?
By the... She looks like she's thinking for the word and says, by the systematic
Patriarchy?
restrictions of class.
You're at the top of the food chain.
And with that comes much responsibility, she says. And Ralwyn kind of smiles and looks away.
More responsibility than the commoners?
She says, different responsibility. Commoners are responsible to us because they have to tend our fields and fold our dresses and bring us things that we require. But we're responsible to them because we have to do what's right and ensure the economic structure is intact. And we have to make choices for them that they don't understand.
Why don't they
And
understand?
when they don't understand it and they disagree, we have to show them that it was right so that they don't rebel. Rowan can't help but laugh out loud now. And Mesa says, well, that's what the books say anyways. And she kind of like reaches out and slaps Ralwyn's shoulder.
This book you're reading sounds quite interesting. Has it been approved by King Adachance?
Mesa says, Father doesn't approve our books. He says we can read anything we want, and that if we have questions, we should just ask him. But he never has time. And, well...
Well, now that I'm stuck here, I actually agree with him, and you can come to me for all your advice that you need. Whatever book you're reading, and I'd point to Mesa and say is a bunch of jargon. I wouldn't pay much attention to it. You need to spend time with your people so that they actually know you and respect you for who you are as a person. That is the only way you're going to gain favor. There's a reason why Adachance is looked upon so favorably.
Ralwyn nods and says, I think much of that is rubbing off on Father's new bride.
Has she been performing well?
Ralwyn shrugs and says, she's performing well on the duties that occur in broad daylight. And Mesa says, you're not coy, you know. I know what you're talking about. And Ralwyn says, you don't know anything. Go study. And Mesa gets up and leaves.
Goodbye, Princess Mesa.
She turns and curtsies and then leaves.
I've not had time to speak with the current queen very much. I don't know much about her, unfortunately. General Ray seems like a good enough person, though. They're related, right?
Ralwyn nods and says, distant cousins, I think. But he is part of the house. Actually, I think he may be the oldest male in the house. Not that he's heir to any throne or anything, and I suppose at this point they're sort of a... She thinks for a second and says, well, they're just a banner house now. I mean, they aren't royal anymore. Well, of course, Queen Iso is royal. But she's royal because she's part of House Adderchance. House Hadir is a banner house now. But I think General Ray would be the head of the house? Or... And she thinks about that for a second and then says, or would Queen Iso be the head of the house? Or is father the head of the house? I don't know if anyone's even really thought about these things yet. It's all happening so quickly.
Perhaps this should be something that you can ask your father. Be a nice conversation starter. It's important for you two to spend some time together.
She rolls her eyes and says, yes, well, lately he seems even more preoccupied than usual.
He does have a lot on his plate, to be fair.
I think he's planning to do something... Well, she kind of leans in close and says, I think he expects war. But I think he expects to fight himself. I've seen him training with your man.
He's likely trying to avoid war if he's training, specifically with our best duelist.
How is that?
He's looking to end it at court. The potential conflict. That's all that makes sense, right?
She shakes her head, completely not understanding, and says, how?
If he was preparing for war, you would see him in countless meetings with the generals. Not doing one-on-one battle training with Altman. One soldier isn't going to make or break a war. Strategy is. No. He's planning something else. What it is, I do not know. War could be on the horizon, but I think he plans to evade it. He must have a plan.
She looks like she thinks about it for a while, and then shakes her head and says, well, I don't know. He doesn't tell us his plans.
Are you worried for your father?
I think I'm worried that he's become careless. Not foolish, but careless. I think he's not interested in whether the other kings approve of his actions. And I think that could have grave consequences.
He's always been one to push the buttons of the other kings. But Viris would point at Rollin. What's most important here is that you voice your concerns to your father. You'll regret everything if you do not. Even if he won't hear you. It's important that you try.
She shrugs and shakes her head, looking kind of downtrodden, and says, but I don't actually know anything. My concerns are based off of the whispers of ill-informed folk who talk because talk is cheap.
You are aware of everyone that is close to your father, right? If you are truly that concerned, why not talk to them?
I have some. I've spoken with the Queen on a few occasions. She's kind, and she seems intelligent, fierce even sometimes.
I'm not talking about the Queen.
Say it.
I lean in. You do know Demeter Crane, do you not?
She just exhales long and slow and closes her eyes and
She
says,
recoils.
Ew!
Mr. Crane is
So hot.
She looks like she tries very hard to say this nicely and says, I find Mr. Crane to be an unfortunate necessity.
Of course. Most aristocrats are.
No. Most aristocrats are not like Mr. Crane.
Maybe not in their devilish ways, but they're necessary. To a certain extent. But Crane is unique. Almost every bit of intel seeps through his greedy hands.
You hear footsteps approaching.
It seems like we're
And
going to be
I
in.
spin around and draw my dagger.
Yeah. Hello, sister. I draw my
You're
sword.
too late.
Your reign of
Draw my
terror
sword.
ends now!
Hello, sister.
My cabin, the cabbages!
Please tell me the cabbages are safe.
It's all I've been thinking about for the last 2 months.
Chancellor walks in and he kind of stops and looks at you for a second and then looks at Raowen and then looks back at you and says, Sir Viris.
Chancellor.
What's the look on his face when he sees him talking to her?
He just looks at you somewhat dumbfounded and shakes his head and says,
You had one job.
I beckon him over.
am speechless.
Chancellor, it's your job to speak. Best not to lose your tongue. Come, join us.
Think one would say it's my job to be heard.
Then it's all the more important
And
to keep
if
your
my
tongue.
words are not heeded, then how am I to do my job? Princess Raowen says, Good morning, Chancellor. He says, Good morning, Princess Raowen, he says, without breaking eye contact with Viris.
Chancellor, your morning duties are all done?
My job is never done. However, your sister's been informed.
Perfect. Did she mention when she would be here?
No, but I hope to the gods it's soon, so she can keep you out of trouble. He gives a little bow to the princess and says, Princess, don't spend too much time with the good knight here. And he walks away. She leans in and says, What was that about?
I'm afraid my reputation's been sullied in the eyes of the Chancellor.
Why?
He sees my actions abroad as unnecessary and perhaps, I can't even think of the word.
What did you do?
I'm not sure I can disclose that information quite yet, Princess, but we'll just say that I am in a bit of trouble.
She looks disappointed.
I'll tell you what, as soon as my name is cleared, I'll tell you all about it.
Well, that's not very interesting, is it?
Unfortunately,
If your name is cleared, that means you didn't do anything worth hearing.
Viris shrugs and says, it's important to others, but not to our kingdom, I suppose. Keeping me alive is probably the most important thing.
She stands and says, well, I should get to my studies.
Don't go studying those horrible books. Read something interesting.
She leaves.
You know what your problem is? Guy that's stuck in all these books.
True.
Do you watch her
Right.
creepily as she leaves?
Wait, what?
Do you watch her creepily as she leaves?
He taps his gauntleted fingers together. Good, good.
Licks his lips.
I bite into an apple.
And really loud and gross sounding.
Does the apple slide down your throat?
Yes.
Do you,
After I chew it.
I was gonna say, do you chew it first? You start choking. I was just trying to be cool.
Right. What does Ray do?
I wait till a reasonable hour, and then I want to get the boys back together.
I love how Ray is
Yes.
the only person that cares. He gets people together at a reasonable hour. Everyone else is fine getting together at midnight.
Well, the main reason I
do
say that-
anything at an unreasonable hour before being brought at a reasonable hour.
Well, the reason I qualified it with that was we literally just met last night, so it's we all go home and go to bed. Then first thing in the morning, I'm like, wait, come back!
6 a.m. Ding, 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 ding.
I want to hang out again. Ray's needy, man.
Would training sessions happen in the morning? Would Demeter be able to see the king training with the boy?
Absolutely. Would you like to?
I would like to.
Okay.
I'll go too. That sounds fun.
All right.
I'll just be looming in the
Fist. Does Viris want to watch that as well?
That was one of the things I
After
mentioned.
his
Of course.
breakfast with
The
Rowan.
princesses.
I guess I should qualify. Is it in a courtyard or something, or are we all creepily
No.
barging into a private room?
No, it's
What are you
it's
guys
in
doing?
it's in the less secret garden.
Okay.
Ooh.
You see Altman Kellum, who Ray, I think this is your first time seeing him. I don't have Roll20 up, so I can't pull his token out.
He should be in the secret document.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Is it?
he's fucking huge. Not super tall. I think he's only 6 foot or something. I said, but he is a big boy.
Is he not in the thing? I don't see him.
Thing.
Is he not? Damn it.
Damn.
Let me see if I can get it to open on my laptop. My laptop was being shitty earlier. But yeah, you see he and King Aaron fighting. I think probably to all, well, at least to Ray and Viris's surprise, King is very good. He's not world-class duelist good, but for being like a dude in his 50s who hasn't like fought in a very long time, he's really good.
Having dueled his former coworker in the first session, does Ray think he's better than he is? Is the king better than Ray, I guess I'm asking?
Yeah. You probably would give yourself like a slight disadvantage in a duel against him.
It'd be a
You'd
fight.
Be pretty evenly matched, though.
Yeah.
Cool. The king looks to be comparably skilled to you, but in like slightly better shape.
And he's like literally training for duels. I don't know that was ever like a focus of what Ray did.
Correct.
Like there's a big difference there.
Yeah. But you at least know that like 30 years ago he was a complete badass. I mean, so were you. And in his own way, so was Demeter.
His own way.
He was like a crazy pirate like 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
30 years ago,
He was
I
a
was
privateer.
True.
Viris was a complete badass too
like
30 years ago.
Word.
He was a badass little baby.
I came out of the womb wielding a spear.
A powerful little sperm.
I busted all those other fuckers.
Sperm beat all the other sperm in a battle royale.
Yeah, it was a massacre.
I slaughtered them before the gates of the egg. They stood no chance.
Jesus. Yay, Roll20's working now. It wasn't letting me open it before. It would like get to the like, here's an advertisement for the stupid dynamic lighting thing, and then it would crash. But it seems to have worked now.
It's very intensive now with this new dark mode.
Altman's burp. No, I do not want Roll20 to have access to my camera and my microphone. Fuck off, Roll20. There's Altman.
Oh, he's huge.
Who is that?
Altman, where did you get that white shirt?
Don't bring up anybody's clothes. It'll trigger Jeff.
Jeff?
How big is he? You said he's really tall?
He's 6 foot tall.
He's
huge.
He's like 6 feet tall, but he's just like steroids jacked.
Like all of Brett's old characters, like The Rock.
Fucking yoked.
No, he's like, what's his fucking face?
The guy from the fucking Witcher, you know.
No, not Zayton. From Zenhei, Bragon's man.
Boofy?
Joffer,
yeah.
I remember you describing him as like, it looks like he works out.
And then he got killed by a giant pelican. We left him at like the work site, and then we came back, and it was so weird. We saw like a giant bird, but it wasn't moving, and we're like, "What's it doing? Is it like laying an egg?"
Eating Joffer.
And we went up there, and like Joffer was like dead. We like stabbed the birds. The bird died on top of him.
Yeah.
God, that game is so weird.
Yeah. Altman looks like he probably has to eat twice as much as any of the three of you to maintain like his weight. And he's giving the king like some pointers on technique, but most of it seems to just be repetition. The king's technique is actually like extremely good. He's just out of practice. You also see that the king is fighting with his sword, which all of you have seen on numerous occasions. Each king has like a sword that they use to like do ceremonial shit. When the council meets at Langstana, or the court rather meets at Langstana, all of the kings like take their swords and set them in front of their thrones. You also all know that Aaron forged his own sword.
Does it look kingly, or is it like
now.
special?
It's pretty fucking beautiful. You would have almost certainly thought that like it was just like a pretty ornamental thing and not an actual weapon. But as you see him like fighting with it, you see it's very much a real weapon, and it's like it's holding up.
It's like the Valyrian steel sword that he made for Jaime in Game of Thrones that he gave to what's her face, Brienne.
I don't remember what that looked like.
It's just like really, really nice
cool.
looking. Can the same be said for the other kings, or is it like usually ornamental for most kings?
Yeah, if you were to like, if you were to like cross swords with one of their swords, it would probably break after several strikes. With like a real weapon.
Is the Black King's made out of gold?
The black what?
The one that the light blue one.
King X.
Oh.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
I'm making a racist joke, Randall.
Yeah. No, I get it now. I was really thrown off by Black King. Because that just sounds like it would be it sounds like it would be like a term for something.
An evil king that lives in a mountain, like, and has like an army of undead. Basically Brett in like 10 years, right?
Whenever necromancy is invented.
Let's get on that, Mr. Crane. We have work to do.
I'm working on it.
Do you guys talk to each other at all, or do you just watch the fight?
I'm just watching. I just want to be there. I want to see it.
I believe that Demeter is also just watching.
Watch.
Was Viris gonna meet his sister before we all got on our own circle and argued for another 6 hours?
That's a good point.
Yeah, she's been told to come here.
Yeah, she's gonna come.
Viris, you are probably pretty pleased with Altman's fighting. This is like the best form you've ever seen him in. He's like making no mistakes. His movements are all very fast but very precise. He's looking pretty fucking unbeatable right now. Obviously, it's kind of hard to tell because he's dueling the king, but yeah, he's looking to be in extremely good form.
Do you step in?
Not yet.
As they go for a while, none of you see or hear her coming.
Which one of us blacks out first?
Until she's pretty much right next to you. And then you hear Pierce's voice say, I would have thought he was much slower.
Sister, is that you?
She walks up and stands next to you and kind of like leans forward on the rail and watches the fight.
No, he's fantastic. Second best in the West.
I meant the king.
He's probably like fifth best.
Well, he's very old. Men usually slow down at that age. And as
Imagine
she
him in
says
his
that,
prime.
she shoots Demeter a look.
Is she on his bad side or his good side with the eye patch? Can he see her?
Has he been? Yeah, he's pointing-
He can definitely see it.
You can sure as shit feel it.
I would like to think I stayed rather spry in my old age.
Have you been getting on my sister's nerves, Demeter?
Hmm. I wouldn't think so.
She kind of scoffs a little bit and just shakes her head. She turns and looks at Ray and says, "I don't believe I've met you."
Don't believe so either, General Ray. And I extend my hand or whatever's appropriate.
But
She
Ray Hadir.
extend your penis.
What's how we say hello? We cross penises. She extends her penis.
She takes your hand and gives a very kind of half-assed curtsy and says, "Pierce Viris."
So then it would click in his head who she is. Oh, Viris' sister.
does that upset her?
Yeah. She keeps getting referred to as my sister, not his her own person.
You aren't your own person. You are.
Sorry about that. I was getting a phone call. She says, "Yes, there's a sister." And then she just looks back out at the king and the duelist fighting.
I look at her and say, "Is there something pertinent that you needed to speak with me about?"
She says, "I thought it was you who wanted to speak with me."
I was told by Mr. Crane that you were attempting to deliver a message to me.
Oh, I told you of that.
He did, but he did not tell me what the message was about.
Well, that's somewhat refreshing. Did he tell you the circumstances of the delivery of the message?
He did not.
There were some logistical issues. I'm sure you understand. It's hard to
Logistical
send
issues.
letters across the country.
Even for you?
Well,
I figured if there was one man able to do it, it would be you.
of course. I'm always capable.
Were you giving my sister an
If-
unnecessarily hard time?
Let's just say I don't tend to make a habit of doing things where I am not properly incentivized. I didn't get to be where I am giving handouts.
No. You types are all the same.
Well, very eat the rich of you.
Too much fat.
Piercia says,
But- yeah.
I wanted to tell you that I'd returned. That I was alive, first and foremost.
Which I had no doubt you would return. You're the best for a reason.
Second best.
Second. Third best in the kingdom.
I suppose I wanted to tell you that I was unsuccessful.
What?
You slap her.
Failure. Failure.
We don't tolerate failure in this family.
I
You were
spit on
unsuccessful.
you.
Do I know what her job was?
It wasn't really a job so much as like she had set a goal for herself. She
was
wanted
like
to find
plotting the mountains or something.
She wanted to find the mountain where this particular river originates.
How hard could that be? You just follow the river. She sucks.
That's a great question, Demeter.
You should ask her.
How hard?
You should definitely say that in those words exactly.
Well, I don't. Okay, well, it's
Do
only
it.
if this is said. If this
Do
is
it.
said out loud,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it sounds like.
Oh shit! Yeah.
She says. I couldn't reach it. The mountain.
Too little supplies or not enough people?
A great many things, she says. And says, it'll be some time before I can go out again.
Why is
I
that?
need to heal.
You're wounded?
She nods.
Were you also hunting?
Always, she says with a little bit of a smile.
Is it because you took on too much that you were unable to complete the task that you gave yourself?
Or in that I underestimated the extent to which men could interfere.
I see.
My team and I ended out on the wrong side of a tribe.
Was she in the northern tribeslands?
Mhm.
Okay.
She sure was.
I see. So you weren't able to broker a deal?
They weren't interested in bartering.
Well, now that you're noble, you have significantly more access to more powerful allies.
Do I?
I would say so. You
I
have
think
two-
so would they. And I think they would be wrong. But in any case,
I look towards
I'll be staying at your estate for a while.
Of course, make yourself at home.
I have.
Have mother and father been there yet?
They are.
Perfect.
And
What's
that
of
is
my
all I
prized
have to
cabbage
say of
collection?
them.
And please tell me that the cabbages are doing well. For the love of God, it's been so long since I've seen them.
We're at the end of cabbage season, and we won't be able to get them for the rest of the year.
We'll starve!
I've been planning to make my famous cabbage sandwiches.
Cabbage sandwiches! That's the most Irish shit I've ever heard of.
And I've just been dying to have some. Please tell me this yield is good.
I love just picking up a whole cabbage and biting into it like an apple. Oh my god.
I say, General Ray, have any of your men ventured up into the northern tribes' lands?
Randall, have any of my men ventured the North Trilands?
Not very far and not very often. There haven't been any like real campaigns or anything up that way for a pretty long time. I mean, there were a couple in your lifetime, but it's not a big thing that happens often. There's a little bit of trading with them, but not too much.
Pay Night.
They're very like protective.
Pay Night and Tiger's Tooth.
Yeah.
They also like in general have a very poor view of the royal houses.
Not for some decades, no. But I've heard of some trouble with trade recently. Why?
Well, any information that could assist my sister in her goals. Was hoping.
She scoffs a little bit and says, I assure you, they have no information I don't.
Perhaps you're more due diligent than I gave you credit for. I am sorry.
It sounds like she spent some time up there. She's probably not wrong.
Yeah, Viris, she's been gone for 6 fucking years trying to do this.
Oh.
This is not a short journey
Gotcha.
that she took.
Oh, so I haven't seen her in forever.
Yeah.
You haven't seen her in a long time.
Oh.
How old are you now? Like 30? So last time you saw her,
Yeah.
you were in like your early 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah. It has been almost 6 years.
Oh, okay. Is she older or younger than me? Or are we around the same age? I can't remember.
She is, I think, 1 year younger than you.
Okay.
Like pretty much as soon as you popped out, she went in.
Oh. Efficiency.
The path was laid. It was a
Yeah.
There
It was blood.
The trail of corpses that she just walked over. She's resented you ever since. Can get bored on my own. I don't need him.
How long do you plan to take off for?
She shakes her head and says, a surgeon told me a year. I hope he's wrong.
Well, if it's not information you need, perhaps it's funding. I happen to know a man with some pretty deep pockets.
Mr. Crane,
So fucking
if
condescending.
I did not make it clear when you broke into my room the other night.
You
I
broke
am
into her
not-
room?
Ray would look at Crane too. What the fuck is this guy talking about? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
She says, if I didn't make it clear when you broke into my room the other night to proposition me, I am not for your hire, no matter how deadly my brother is.
You did what?
It was a professional proposition. And break in is such a strong word. The door was unlocked when I arrived.
No, it
You
wasn't.
should be more careful.
She says, "Please, Mr. Crane, lying to the intelligence does not become you. Save that for the rabble."
The viruses love that word.
Yep, they do.
Rabble.
I think you've called each of us rabble like twice tonight.
It runs in the family. We were called rabble whenever we were children.
That's fair, actually. It's very fair.
Yeah, there is a little hint of irony in her use of the word.
Then I must ask, what do you plan on doing once you're healed? Go straight back up there?
Yes. Unless someone beats me to it. There are others looking.
What do you
From
hope
other
to find
kingdoms of
up there in the mountains?
The birth of the Cadpa.
You're looking for the start of a river?
Yes.
Don't do it, Cody.
I mean, forgive me for
Don't do it.
my nautical intelligence mostly relates to the ocean and not so much rivers. But I suppose general knowledge would dictate that rivers kind of flow in a direction. If you follow it back up, it should lead you to the originating point.
She completely ignores this statement and acts as though you have said nothing whatsoever. And tells Viris, "And if someone should find it before me, I suppose I'll turn my eyes east. No one dares go that way."
You spent a great amount of time up there?
6
6 years.
Wow. What can you tell me of the people up there? The tribes. You said you had a run-in with them?
Yes. Many of them speak our tongue, but not all. There are 5 distinct languages spoken in the tribes. I reasonably competent in 3 of them. Their cultures are much different than ours. Similar in some ways, but they've no view of class. Many of them are warrior cultures, much like your own, she says, about Ray. It says, they have different views of honor and rank.
Did you
If
take
I
on...
sound
Sorry,
in any way reverent of them, don't be mistaken. I despise them.
Did you see Guardians with them at any point?
She nods and says, "I had to trade many times. Broker deals, arrange passage, pay homage, make sacrifices."
Sacrifices.
She nods and says, "Although some of them do prescribe to the primitive religion of the West, most don't. They find similar diversions in the heavens.
Hmm. On the whole, did they strike you as territorial or threatening?
Territorial, certainly. Threatening to us, not likely. They are each individually quite small as compared to a kingdom such as this one.
So the reason I ask is I heard some passing mention of trouble with our limited trade. Trying to get an idea of if there's any validity to that.
She nods and says, most of them have cut off trade entirely here.
Interesting. Well,
They
thank
have
you.
very little need of our resources, but don't underestimate greed.
As always. Did she say there's 5 groups or 5 languages a minute ago?
5 languages. You would already know that there's like dozens of tribes.
And what of their relations to each other?
Tolerant, mostly. Hostile, occasionally. No strong alliances. Trade is common, including trade in people.
There's no slavery down here, Randall?
Nope.
Was there ever?
Yeah. Slavery is seen as like a very old, old world thing that nobody really does anymore. In name only. Like, depending on who you ask, commoners are kind of slaves anyways. They're just treated very well and they have rights.
Yeah.
Like, they can't just like decide not to work for the noble that they're under. Like, they can't just up and leave.
Yeah.
Like all the people that like live at Viris's little hamlet, like if they were to just be like, yeah, we're gonna fuck off and go live somewhere else, he could like have them run down and captured, and like the law would be on his side.
I guess the difference is like down here people have like hours, like working hours, and they get to like go home at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people aren't like traded. Like,
they're not a commodity. Like we pretend that
right.
we're all got it.
Right.
Yeah, so Ray would come.
And like, if Viris was mistreating the peasants on his lands, like they could basically like go make a case and be like, hey, he's mistreating us, and like people would look into it.
And at worst they'd be like, all right, knock it off, and Viris would be like, okay.
Yeah.
Then mistreat them harder. I say that as a joke, but it's probably not wrong, not necessarily for Viris, but for others.
Mm-hmm.
Any advocates for slavery to come back? Anybody touting that one? I just want to know who I should vote for in my next election.
Probably occasionally, but it's not like a popular opinion, and also like I mentioned that like religion doesn't govern a whole lot of things, but that one is like owning people is considered like a sin in the main religion. So very unpopular because of that.
Hmm.
And most of the people who go against the mainline religion are also like very progressive and not into slavery. So it's a really small group of people that think slavery is a good idea. But they're out there. And obviously, like, illegal human trafficking exists.
Last question, then I'll let you get back to your brother. What can you tell us about our nearest neighbors? If there was any trouble, it was likely with them.
She thinks for a second, like she's thinking back a very long time in her memory, and says, "They're quite civilized. They have a sort of culture of sharing. I would say they're relatively harmless."
Interesting. Well, thanks. You've been very helpful. You would nod.
She says, like, fairly quietly, in a very passive-aggressive sort of way, "I'm sure I've helped you more than just this."
I actually have another question for you, if you wouldn't mind.
I step aside.
She looks at Demeter.
Ah, excellent. Okay. Did they, in your time up there in the Northern Tribeslands, obviously you talked about trading with the locals. Did they have anything up there one might consider to be not of value to them, but something of value to us?
Pain, right?
You said that we don't have anything that they want, but do they have something that we would want?
Mr. Crane, if there's one thing I've learned about the Western kingdoms, it's that they want everything.
Okay. Seems like a yes.
Death Jaguars, just tell me, please! It's been keeping me up all night.
Pay night. Where's the pay night at? Where are the stores? Show me on the map. I began drawing up my invasion plans for the Northern Tribeslands on like a napkin.
Sending everybody. Every man, woman, and child to get killed with a weapon.
Birsha, should we go somewhere more private?
She looks at Demeter and Ray and says, "Oh, you don't trust your close friends here?"
I don't know if I would say trust, but they're both good at what they do.
An argument could be made against such a statement.
Perhaps. But Beer shrugs. I don't think I have as much ill will towards Demeter as you do.
Oh?
At least not yet. Until you tell me the stories.
Oh, what do you want to know, brother?
Do tell me how he broke into your room.
Ah, yes.
And why isn't he dead? You remember those moves I taught you?
I believe it was a brick that was thrown at my head during childhood by you. Were you not as violent with him? I must say, I'm getting a little jealous.
She says, well, you see, it began with a simple favor. I asked one of his men to send a letter to you for me. The man obliged quite kindly. And then Mr. Crane found me later and gave me back the letter, making it clear that his price for such a simple favor was no less than my very soul.
Well, having the ability of 2 Novaris under his thumb would be quite evocative, wouldn't you say? If you were in his position, would you not fight for that also?
No, I actually know how to bargain. I walked away. His offer was absurd. It seems he wanted to continue the negotiations, and so rather than meet me in a mutually agreeable place, he broke into my room and waited for me, after having gone through my private things.
You went through her stuff, Demeter?
Ray looks at Demeter again.
I perused her maps.
We will have to have words, you do know that, Demeter. in
Just the maps, was it?
in the Colosseum of Secrets.
When I arrived back in my room that night, he confronted me. Made it clear he wished to have me on his payroll. When I asked him why he wished me to work for him, he said it was because of you.
And the maps.
I see. Quite offensive.
I wouldn't think so.
That's because you have no soul, Demeter.
That's not entirely true. It's just corrupted beyond belief.
Just a small fragment of what it used to be.
War tends to do that to people.
I suppose that's probably true.
In fairness, it could
She
be said your
turns
station is
away.
mutually exclusive with lack of a soul, no?
Correct.
I said that wrong. With a soul.
She turns to Ray and says, and you, General.
Hmm.
Generals are in the business of making deadly wagers, are they not?
Only after the initial wage has been made by the king, yes?
How would you like to make a bet with me?
Do tell.
When was the last time you consulted a map for your tactics?
Randall, when was the last, I don't know, actual
Lit-
engagement I was in?
Literally yesterday we used a map, I think.
Yeah, you used a map yesterday.
No less than a day ago.
She says, do you know where that map is?
Which map was it? The one in the chamber, Randall? Is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, or the one at your house in the city. Either one, whatever map.
My estate.
She says, Here's my wager. In the bottom left corner of that map, at the beginning of the grid lines, moving longitudinally, there's a small marking, almost imperceptible. Here, I'll reproduce it for you. And she takes out a little penknife and carves it into the railing overlooking the statue garden, and says, "It's a signature. My signature. If it isn't on your map, you'll have won the wager. And if it is, I'll have won."
You've always been one for these games, sister.
If that's true, you do fine work. I see greatness runs in your family.
She smiles a little bit at that
True.
and says, "Well, it seems one of the three of you knows how to speak to women."
Pirsha, please.
She says, "What, Viris, you didn't think I would bring it up?"
You bring it up every chance you get, Pirsha.
You know, I had even fooled myself. I thought, when I arrived at your estate, I would find some young wife of yours, swollen with baby, awaiting your return from abroad.
Perhaps you don't
But
know
no.
me as well as I thought you did, Pirsha.
She shakes her head and says, "They couldn't find you a simple woman among your prizes."
Does it look like I need that in my life?
Yes.
You think I'm bored or something?
No. I think you're grossly in need of a woman.
You insult me, sister.
Your estate insults you.
I've just... Listen, I hear it's haunted. I've been there one day. I have had nothing to do with that place.
It's really
I left it up.
spooky.
I hired Demeter's men
Oh no.
in exchange for gathering information for his men while I was abroad.
Yes, and a fine fuck-up they've made of it.
Ray produces some
Wait.
popcorn.
That was the Garden of Secrets information we were throwing around there.
You violated the Garden of Secrets.
A fuck up.
To the
you
Call
say?
of Secrets we go.
What has happened, Pirsha?
Are my cabbages okay?
The cabbages.
Firstly,
He grabs her by the
Tell me.
shoulders and starts shaking
Tell
her.
me they survived.
Here we go.
Firstly, I've never seen such creative and liberal fusing of the professions of architect and arsonist.
Arsonist?
They
Did
burned
they
the fields
set
on the
the-
north side.
Did they set the manor on fire?
Miraculously, no.
Huh.
But they did burn the fields.
They burnt the fields?
Which fields?
Yes.
You see him start to sweat a little bit.
The cabbages and tomatoes on the north side.
They burnt the cabbages.
It was a controlled burn.
How thoroughly.
He drops to his
They were
knees. Ah!
convinced that the roots of the vines growing amidst the cabbage fields were undermining the keystone structure at the corner.
So they burnt it?
They burnt the whole fucking field.
The fuck were they thinking?
I don't know, but I have sent them away.
And have you hired new men?
Yes,
And have they been working?
they will start soon.
You'll be staying at the estate the whole year while you're recovering?
Yes.
And I take it you and Mom will be overseeing the adjustments.
No.
No?
Mother and father keep to their own, which is fine by me.
They haven't welcomed you home.
Huh.
I was hoping they'd put
No.
it aside since it's been 6 years. Or was it more?
She shakes her head and says, Father will never forgive me for leaving. That much I understand.
And what of Mother?
She looks slightly pained to say this, and then says, It's better for them if I don't come between them.
Is
And
that
that
because
is probably the least Pirsha thing Viris has ever heard her say. She's a very selfish person and doesn't usually give a fuck about anybody else
yeah,
in really
Viris is just
anything.
about to do that. Yeah. And what about you? Is that what Pirsha wants?
Don't patronize me.
I'm not patronizing you, sister.
I don't have wants. I have drives.
Viris looks a little disappointed at this answer. I see. I won't push it much further, but I think it's a slight mistake on your part. And you're not one for mistakes. Not
Well,
to
people
attempt
change.
to remedy. You're telling me that you've changed.
Yes, I seem quite mistake-prone these days.
Does she like grab at anything or like gesture towards anything when she does that? Says that? Like towards her injury or something? Or
Yeah, I think you see her hand like go to her side a little bit.
I look down there and say, is that your injury that the doctor looked at?
She nods.
From man or beast?
From something. She lets out a long sigh and then says, something like the both.
What are you getting at? Does this look painful for her to talk about here?
A little bit.
I will.
And then she says, I was tortured for some time. But it's in the past. And I'm on the mend.
Viris's expression gets like extremely serious.
You definitely recapture Ray's attention, but he doesn't say anything.
He gives a like very quick glance towards Ray and Demeter and then looks quickly back at Pirsha, and says, We don't have to talk about this here. But are you sure you're okay? And you'll be fine at the estate.
She
I
says,
can perhaps
I'm
get you a room.
quite certain nothing here is of any threat to me. No
That's
matter
not what I'm
how
talking
many
about.
idle threats they might make, she says, glancing back at Demeter.
I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking
Doesn't make
about your
idle
mental,
threats.
your mentality.
Iron as ever.
Is that so? Very well. I could perhaps get you a room here in the castle if you would like to stay here.
Gods no.
You don't
Your
want to spend
hamlet
time with
will
your
be
dear
burned
brother.
to the ground by the time we return, if that's to be so. Someone with half sense must watch over it.
Well, I was hoping to get to spend more time with you, but I don't know when I'll be returning to the estate.
You were hoping to spend time with me.
It has been 6 years, even if we don't get along the greatest. Surely you have many a story to tell.
She just stares at you for a while.
I
and
stare back.
says, I doubt we have much in common.
We never have. But that's kind of what makes it somewhat interesting to catch up.
But I don't want to hear about how many men you've killed.
I've done other things since. I'm not just a mindless killing machine.
No. You seem to have killed your way into knighthood. So I suppose you're two things now.
I put my hand on her shoulder and say, we're finally getting the recognition that we deserve. Our entire family.
No, we aren't.
You're right. Nowhere close. But we're at least getting some recognition.
We're not getting anything.
We've got land for the first time.
She scoffs a little bit and looks over at Demeter and says, You have land.
Had? Did you say had?
No, she says, You have land.
Looking at me? Was that a statement or a question?
Well, she looks at Demeter and then says to Viris, You have land.
Oh, okay.
You know as well as I do. It might be in my name, but I recognize the talents of our entire family. You have all deserved it just as much as I have.
The world isn't interested in those who are deserving.
Probably not. But it's not very interested in much. Only power and money. That's all that matters.
That's not true.
You think other things matter?
Yes. Clearly, killing matters quite a lot.
That's just a stepping stone to garnering more power and money. I'd look down at the Adder Chance and Callum dueling. Power and money.
She looks over the railing down at the king and says, What a ridiculous man.
Callum? Or the king?
No.
Do you know his plan?
I know what he's done, and I know what will come of it.
I spoke with the princess earlier. She expects war.
Everyone expects war, Viris.
Even you?
Everyone wants a piece of this rock. One man has decided to have all of it. The others aren't just going to lay down and take that. He's a ridiculous man with ridiculous ambitions, and they're going to kill him for it.
Would you rather have a king that is unambitious?
She says almost sadly, no.
You know my views on the royals. If they have to be there, I would much rather them push buttons and seek progress than do nothing. At least he's doing something.
She says, looking down at Aaron, sometimes it isn't enough to simply follow the river.
In your face, Cody.
She showed me.
Do you know why I was sent back?
There's a rumor that you killed 4 men on a burning bridge. A rumor that they were crested knights. Is it true?
Viris would nod. We were tipped off that they would try to kidnap the princess. It's the one thing I couldn't allow. I wasn't going to risk it. Especially not in Garzash territory.
What's going to happen to you?
Are they doing a trial here? Is it a trial?
Yeah.
I'll be put on trial here. I don't think anything severe will happen. But there is a... what's the word? What's the guy that came from... yeah, there's an ambassador from Garzash's lands. He's here, staying in the city. He will oversee the trial. I'd love for you to stay, but I understand if you need to get back to the estate.
She looks at Demeter and says, this trial What's to happen?
Well, it's mostly just for show. To make it appear as though we are keeping our own accountable. I doubt anything will come of it. A punitive slap on the wrist, if you will.
And the king will protect Viris.
Undoubtedly.
I'll hold you to that.
I wouldn't hold me to anything if I were you.
You are me.
Not yet.
Will you stay?
She looks like she thinks about that for a minute. And then says, what would I stay for?
Randall, what's the incest policy in this game? I'm getting some vibes. I'll just say it. I'll ask it.
The
Oh, there's
incest
definitely.
policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, policy.
It's pretty taboo.
Unlikely.
Okay. So only the proverbial bad boy would dare to incest it up. Okay. Some kind of rebel who goes against authority, huh? Interesting. Continue.
Perhaps I could find you a room in the.
It's applauded by the church, actually.
It's revered.
Slavery is a no-go, and incest, yes.
It's revered. Everyone loves it.
You gotta keep the bloodline pure.
Okay, Brett. So the question was, what would I stay for? There's an answer to that. That leads down a very slippery slope.
I look over the railing. Can I fall to my death from here?
Cave descent.
Not remotely.
Ah, fuck.
It's only
What if he wanted to?
down.
What if he wanted to make a scene?
Make a scene.
What if he wasn't trying to be like secretive about it?
Oh no, I've fallen.
But if you wanna just jump the railing and swan dive face first onto the fucking stone below,
The rose
it would
bushes.
probably do some serious damage, but there's a good chance you'd live.
You should have brain damage. And you'd have to keep playing Demeter.
It's like the fucking Rain Man.
You're just Demeter in a wheelchair.
Here we go, Demeter. I got you a little toy crane. Demeter's crane. Demeter's crane.
Yeah. I think I say, just to make sure that I make it out in one piece.
There's a long pause, and then she says, very well. I'll remain a while.
I appreciate that. You never cared for dueling, did you?
No.
I think you'd be quite good at it, honestly.
I'm much too small.
Perhaps. Maybe if there was a women's league.
She scoffs a little bit and says, "Oh, please."
That sounds like something King Chance would do, actually.
Yes, and he'd be applauded for it.
Of
People
course.
love his ridiculousness.
I should go down and meet with him. I'll step back from the railing. Or, fuck, could I jump off?
Sure.
I think that would be cool.
Does he get brain damage?
I think.
Roll.
I think.
Just Apazio just bursts back into the game.
Is that? I don't think that's that crazy.
How high up are we? Can we please establish that?
Would it be?
It's only like 8 feet from the railing.
No, that's
so, like,
insane. That's Apazio shit.
It's cool.
You
It'd be cool
could-
though.
You could definitely pull it off
Superhero landing.
without really like any. Well, superhero landing would be a terrible way to do it. You should
Yeah,
probably roll. But
No, if it's not like land on feet appropriate height, then no. Okay,
8 feet is really high. That's almost a one-story building.
I have no concept of any distance
Do it.
unless it's
You,
to me
cool.
fields.
you would definitely want to roll from this height.
How tall is your...
Landing on your feet would be a whole lot of shock on your ankles and knees, and it's
Or you
not-
could dangle.
not
You could
wise.
you could like, you know, go to the other side and kind of like shimmy your way down.
Yeah, just like climb down a column.
Pierce, what are you doing? Look away.
Yeah, so I'd say I should go down and meet them, and then I'll take a step back from the railing and turn and kind of give Pirsha a nod, and then walk out. Is this like a separate chamber, and then there's like a staircase that leads down?
Yeah,
I'm imagining we're on like an elevated walkway that's like around the room.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So there's like
Okay,
stairs on either side of us, down a ways.
cool. Yeah, I go down one of the stairs.
Pirsha looks at Ray and says, "So what shall the stakes be?"
She's talking about the trial?
The map.
Wait, what? I'm totally lost.
She made a wager with you on the map that her emblem is on it.
She made your map.
Oh, Jesus.
You're
Well, you have me at a disadvantage. What would you ask of somebody in my position?
She says, "Something diverting, something entertaining, something to waste away my time while I recover."
I was just assigned an estate by the king himself. I'm sure there's some exotic bottles tucked away. if that's your fancy.
She raises an eyebrow and says, "Your finest bottle, then.
Not a problem.
And what would you ask, I wager?"
If you're half the woman you're leading on to be, I don't think it's necessary that we make that half of the wager. Hello? I just heard like a clicking and then...
Yeah, for some reason my fucking Bluetooth just like crapped out. I heard nothing after she asked the question.
Oh, he said, if you're half the woman you're letting on to be, I don't think your half of the wager is necessary.
1 second, did it again.
Oh my god, your voice changed.
Hello?
Hello?
Is anyone in here? I'm gonna get naked and take.
Everyone?
I'm gonna get naked and take a shower.
Alright, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. I'm sorry, it did it again. I don't know
Okay.
what's going on.
Right, Ray says, if you're half the woman you're letting on to be, I don't think your half of the wager's really necessary, is it?
No, it did it again.
She smirks and then says, "But on principle, what would you ask?" I'll admit it's possible that I'm wrong.
I've heard wonderful things about your cabbages. No. Okay. Surely you brought back at least one souvenir from the north, no?
I did.
One that you could part with.
Ask her for a most extravagant.
She nods and says, "A trophy, then."
Butters.
You're on.
But a single strand of your hair.
It just gets really creepy and inappropriate. I am a widow, you know.
I just want to watch what you and your brother do. I really must know.
I'm getting a vibe. Alright, she holds out her hand to shake.
Shake her hand.
Alright. Viris, what do? You have walked down like a sensible person. Using the
Coward.
stairs.
Coward.
The stairs.
Do you, hold on. So, Brett, they're down there practicing. Does your sword just appear and, like, catch one of their blades mid-swing?
No.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't think that's cool.
That's, like, the coolest way you can interject right now.
Hit the king in the back of the head with the blunt of your blade and say, "Expect the unexpected."
Lesson number 1.
You can't expect Gazash to fight fair.
Come on, Brett. You have to enter the scene cool. They're literally in your kitchen right now. They're dueling.
I just feel like it diminishes Altman.
Yeah, do that.
Do it.
You're number 1. Never
know.
forget that.
I mean, do you want him to have like a false sense of pride going like he's about to like fight more in a day than you probably ever did?
Yeah. I would, but I would catch. I think I'll do it with Callum's blade. I'll catch Callum's blade.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you do it.
I want to do it
like,
whenever the king seems like he's like getting like tired or something.
Yeah, are they like sparring or are they just like doing repetitions and stuff?
combination of both.
Yeah, so like, he catches him during an actual spar.
I think Altman just is like relentlessly throwing a combination of attacks at the king, and the king is like kind of losing his footing and having a hard time keeping up. And Altman goes for kind of a like arrogant backspin, and he like twirls around and brings the sword back in, and that gives Viris an opening enough to step in and catch the blade.
Yeah, I do that.
Altman like stops for maybe half a second as his blade hits yours, and then he whirls it around and continues the attack very, very fiercely against you.
Yep. Yeah, I'll just continue and play along, and then I want to embarrass him. Actually, at this point.
Okay. Yeah, you get into the tempo of it as quickly as you can, which requires that you spend the next several seconds just parrying this onslaught. And as you're like looking for an opening to be able to do something, Altman very quickly kind of switches up his attacks, doing something that you have actually done many times before, with just completely changing your footing to vary your offense. And it like takes you a second, but you're able to keep up with it. And he just keeps you on your back foot for like a solid 30 seconds of like borderline chasing you around as you parry everything. You could pretty safely say that like he would have just fucking killed anybody else by now, including like Jax. This is like the hardest you've ever had to defend.
Wait, is he better than Halo?
Yeah, he probably would have fucking killed Halo by now too.
Uh-oh.
It's hard to say.
Wait, even on the drugs?
Yeah, it'd be pretty fucking close.
And Brett had a tie with Halo. What does that mean?
Eventually, it's not even really that he slips up so much as just that you have like a brilliant read, and you like step under and inside one of his slashes and just get one solid hit in, where you bring your sword onto his side and hit him in the ribs.
Is it like the backward stab under your armpit?
Yeah.
All weeby like. So like your back is to him.
It was just like a completely perfect read that allowed you just the smallest, narrowest opening to just get under his blade and get in. And when you hit him, he staggers back and seems almost just like completely unbelieving. And he like looks down for a second and catches his breath and then kind of just drops down onto one knee and puts his hand on the ground and catches his breath and looks up and says, "Holy shit."
Then he dies.
Yeah,
You stabbed him.
yeah, he spits blood, he coughs up blood, and he says, I'm not gonna make it.
Nobody takes my title.
Yeah.
I'm the duelist for life.
I rubbed it in my burnt cabbages.
Well, The road hasn't slowed you down at all. And he stands up and gives you his hand.
Yeah, I mean, I would offer my hand to help him up too.
He takes your hand, shakes it, and then brings his other arm around your shoulders and embraces you and puts his forehead on your forehead.
Yep.
And says, "Good to see you."
Oh yeah, it's like a Aragorn Boromir moment. This is exactly what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking perfect. Yeah. I say, you're exceptional. You've grown remarkably in the past. What? How long have I been knighted? Like a month?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've
A
grown
few
remarkably.
weeks, I think 3 weeks or a month, something like that.
It's crazy how much has happened. You've grown remarkably in the past 3 weeks. I must confess, I was expecting you to have faltered a little bit with my absence. I'm sorry.
He nods and says, "Oh, for sure you'd have gone soft. You got your own servants now, and you're eating all that fatty shit, drinking wine and all that."
Besides you, I was dueling with the best on my journey to the west. I dueled Jax.
Really?
I dueled Halo. Wait, is Halo his first name? I forget.
Yeah.
I would say his full name.
Halo Nux.
Yeah, I would say I dueled Halo Nox. One of our kind.
He like puts his hands on his hips and thinks for a second and says,
What did
"Holy fuck."
Gwyn call him?
The one-lunged knight.
Yeah, I'd say that. The one-lunged?
He says, "Holy fuck. Where is
Oh.
he these days? He's got to be getting pretty old."
Viris would nod. He's a lord in House Roik. I guess he somewhat oversees their dojo also. You're far better than both he and Jax. It's not even really
Well, I
close.
suppose that bodes well for me then.
Viris would get a very serious look on his face and say, you have countless number of duels.
So here. That's a good thing I don't have to fight you. It seems I still can't win that.
Viris would kind of exhale pretty strongly and say, yes, but the quantity might weigh you down. If you don't mind, and I'd turn to the king and say, I can pick up training you, my lord. My king? Would my lord be okay in this scenario or not?
You would call him either like sire or king.
Yeah, I like sire.
Liege.
My liege sounds so condescending.
Of
I don't
course,
think
my liege.
Your Grace. Like in Game of Thrones, Your
It
Grace.
sounds like it's divine given. I don't think
That's how Ned Stark comes. He's like, Your Grace.
Yeah, I'll say sire. And of course,
Master.
practicing with the best. I can take up training with the king.
Aaron, now that you've kind of acknowledged him, claps his hands and says, "Bravo. That might be the most brilliant defense I've ever seen. To say nothing of the strength of the attack," he says, gesturing to Altman, and says, "How lucky am I to have the two finest fighters in the world."
The Dawkins seem to have a knack for producing the greatest. You're not too bad yourself. I nod towards the king.
He looks down at the sword and looks up at you and says, Well, this is quite heavy, and I'm slow and old and weak now. But I suppose once I might have given you a run for your money, when you were 10 or so, and I were your age.
Please, it looks like you'd put up a fine fight.
Well,
When compared to... Are he and Halo similar age? Or is
Yep.
Halo older? Okay. And compared to
Halo's like
Halo...
maybe 2 or 3 years older than him.
Okay. And compared to Halo, how is he doing?
You would probably guess that, like, if it was just pure athleticism, the King actually has him beat. But, like, Halo's
Halo has
technique
Yeah.
far exceeds, like, even like yours in a lot of ways. Like, if he was your age, you probably couldn't take him, which is a ridiculous comparison because his technique wouldn't be that good when he was your age. Like he in all likelihood was never as good a fighter as you are now. But if somehow he had just like never aged and kept getting better, he's the best. He's just he legitimately is like too old now to really be like a significant threat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, you are much better at 30 than he ever was at 30, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But he's also spent his entire life fighting. The King hasn't fought for the last, like, 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say just give it some time. And if you allow me, I can take up training with you. Altman has a lot on his plate after what I saw in House Roik.
Altman says, oh, is their fighter any good?
I mean, he's being trained by Halo. I didn't get a chance to duel him.
Plenty of the kids over at the dojo were trained by you, and they're still shite.
It sticks with others. Viris would shrug. But I didn't get a chance to duel the student, or the duelist, unfortunately. But depending on when you meet up with him, I do worry.
Altman kind of just shrugs that off and says, well, no half measures from me. I'll take your fight seriously, but I'm not afraid. I'm ready for this.
Good.
I've waited 10 years. 10 years for you to fuck up and me to stand up. Suppose it's my turn now.
Viris nods and says, I understand, but you need to take this extremely seriously. That's why, if you will allow me, I'll take over training the King, so you can focus on your own training.
He says, of course. And the King nods and says, I would be honored.
Viris nods and says, thank you.
I shall strive to be your very best pupil.
Viris would look over at Altman and says, you have a lot to live up to then, King.
Aaron smirks and says, well, I do have our magnanimous friend here beat in one regard, and that is that I have learned when to stop the attack. And Altman looks very offended by this and says, "Respectfully, King, I'd have cut anyone else in half." And the king says, "I know. But you didn't. And you wouldn't have." The king looks at you, Viris, and says, "Some fighters require patience to beat."
I like how Outer Chance just like loves taking jabs at people. He did it to Demeter last session too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I would nod and say, perfect. Shall we pick up here, or would you like to pick up tomorrow?
The king kind of just shakes his head and says, "I'm afraid I have many other things to tend to, not the least of which being your trial, which we still must plan.
Of course.
And my stamina is no match for yours."
Understandable. Randall, has Pirsha in the past expressed want to meet King Adderchance? From the way she was speaking with him
No.
about him, I imagine not. But
I think she hates everybody.
yeah,
Completely, I was about to say, she completely hates basically everyone.
gotcha.
Like, she has no idea who Ray is, or really anything about him, and she hates him. Like, she's already, like, being antagonistic, and, like, also kind of defensive, because
Right.
she just assumes that, like, he hates her too.
Brett literally put it in the group chat where he's like, "You got your titles through station. You're fucking worthless." Like,
Yeah.
Remind me, does Ray have a daughter? I think he had like a youngest daughter.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Because I think I've decided that
like
Ray's
2 sons and a daughter, or 3 sons and a daughter.
I think Ray's also got her figured out, and that she is just a teenage girl. Where, like, no matter where you are in life and what you have or what you don't have, it's your fault and you're wrong. Like everybody's wrong but her. So I think Ray knows what he's dealing with.
Yeah, she's obviously not literally teenaged, but yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
she
mindset.
didn't really mature past a certain point, and like she's super intelligent, which doesn't help.
Like she's saying
it
like
makes it
that.
worse.
Like she said like, oh, if whenever King Aaron does something progressive, everyone claps for him because it's full of bullshit. He's being so progressive. But on the other flip side of that, like the super traditionalist king, she's like, oh, being a king is such bullshit. You're just because of who you were born as. It's like there's no winning with her. So.
Right.
And
Yes,
Ray is
there
acutely
is
aware
no
of
winning
that.
with her. Even like the compliment that she paid Ray is just to piss off Demeter. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't actually think highly of Ray.
Yeah.
She just
She's petty.
wanted to slight Demeter by saying something.
I
about
thought that we
Ray.
were getting along quite well. Is this
She
not the
hates you.
case?
She hates you completely.
How are you gonna marry her, Cody?
Shit.
She's always going to hate her husband.
Who does she not hate?
Nobody. Maybe Brett?
Actually, she doesn't. She doesn't hate Viris. She's just very antagonistic towards him, and she does hate like what he does.
And she hates that he got
She
famous
hates that
for
he's
it.
a duelist. Yes.
So, I guess this is just a little bit more on her backstory, I guess, that Viris would probably know. Does she want to be recognized for
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
She hates that, like, from her perspective.
She does
And
all this work, and she
this is
doesn't get
probably
recognized.
also just factual.
Mhm.
She's like the best cartographer in the world, and one of the most traveled and accomplished explorers in the world, certainly in her age group. Like, she's been to every kingdom, which there are very few people who can say that. And she's been, like, deep into the fucking edges of the map. In the north specifically. So, like, she should be recognized as, like, the best or one of the best in her profession, and nobody knows who the fuck she is.
Okay, I got this. Okay, cool.
Now, part of that is her fault, because she's very unpersonable, and so, like, nobody wants to, like, help her with anything.
Okay. So I think I got this. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I go get her to meet the king.
No, that's not. I was going to do that, but
You should
now
not do that.
Now that I learned that, I do not do that. Okay, cool. So I would nod towards the king and say, "I understand. Are we going to have another meeting tonight, or do I not? Am I allowed to say that in front of Altman? Does he know that I'm part of the secret society of the two generals, the rich guy, Viris, the Chancellor, and the king?"
A rich guy?
I'm more than just my money.
No, you're not.
My eye is up here.
Yeah. Stop looking down at my coin purse, Viris.
Altman is, like, not really in the know on too many things, but, like, you wouldn't really need to keep that a secret from him.
Okay.
Like,
also,
the
like,
fact that you, like, go to meetings is not something you need to guard closely.
Also, I think just to help things along, like, I guess on the way here, Ray would have maybe had the Chancellor send for Morris with the idea that we'd all meet after their training's done or something like that.
The Chancellor is doing that then.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, yeah, then I mentioned that in front of Altman. No problem. I say, and we'll be meeting soon, I'm guessing.
The king looks up at the balcony where Demeter and Ray are still, like, hanging around.
Creeping out.
Says,
our eyes are just peeking over the
already
corner.
begun to circle.
Yes, I think it's going to be called shortly. General
king
Ray here
smirks
doesn't
and
seem like he
says-
likes to waste time.
King smirks and says, "Hopefully we're being called because someone's thought of a solution to a problem we already knew about, not because we've learned of a problem we didn't."
Oh.
Shall we go and see?
We should. I turn back to Altman. I put my hand on his shoulder and say, can you stop by later in the night? I have something to discuss with you.
Of course.
I nod and say, it was great seeing you again, brother.
You as well.
Okay. I leave with the king.
Cool. You head up to the balcony to rewind just a little bit. When Altman and Viris had their, like, craziest 25-second fight that anyone has ever seen. afterwards, Pirsha kind of just says, to no one in particular, although Demeter and Ray are both there, he's an animal.
I suppose the real question is whether or not he's been domesticated.
She kind of chuckles a little bit and shakes her head and says, I didn't think men could move like that. Have you ever seen anything like it?
Have we, Randall?
No,
Yeah.
not remotely. You've seen actually like a lot of combat.
Yeah.
And to say nothing of Viris's just like stroke of probably by everyone else here besides you, very underappreciated brilliance with his counterattack. Like the most genius maneuver you've ever seen anyone do in a sword fight. To say nothing of that, Altman looks like he could just cut his way through 15 people and like never blink. He's fast as shit. He's fucking huge. He has reach. He has strength. Like, he doesn't seem to get tired. And he's just like, his technique is perfect. He literally looks like he could just cut through 15 people.
I've been on and off the battlefield for going on 35 years now. And no, I've not seen a man. Short of maybe Sir Altman down there, who holds a candle to Sir Viris.
You think you see maybe just the smallest bit of pride in her eye. But she definitely wouldn't want anyone to notice it. As she seems to outwardly very much disapprove of Viris.
I'm not crying.
Right, the king and the king and Viris come up. As the king reaches the three of you, he says, "Ah, hello there. You must be Viris' sister."
No! Oh my god!
He did the meme.
Are you happy?
Love it.
Are you guys happy?
Oh my fucking god.
Dude, not only did the meme, he couldn't have introduced himself in a worse way to her. He did what Ray did.
And what Demeter did. And what everybody does.
I step out of the way. Oh my god.
Oh,
Why
That's
did you?
hilarious.
Why is this happening?
Excellently
Yes.
done. That's been written since this character got his picture.
You must be Viris' sister. And
I duck for cover.
she says,
a fucking nuclear meltdown.
she says, "Oh, you must be Viris' king."
God.
I'll have
gotta-
her arrested at once.
We have to move her to the gray zone
Guardsmen.
now.
And
We need to wheel her around like Hannibal Lecter with a mask and like a wheelie cart.
you're all probably sharp enough to pick up on this. The king immediately recognizes that he made a strategic error.
I would catch his eyes and confirm that for him as one of his chief strategists.
And he
I think Viris is just smiling the whole time. Like, ear to ear.
It's horrible when it happens to you, but it's hilarious when you watch someone else do it.
King Aaron says, I am. And it brings me more pride than many of my other titles.
Nice.
And she kind of like pauses at that and looks almost frustrated that he had such a good response. And then she says, I suppose I should be going. It looks as though you boys have something important to discuss. And the king gives her like a slight bow of his head and says, You're welcome in the palace any time. And she leaves.
Whoa!
And
He's spying
after
on us.
she's out of earshot,
He had to
King
deal with a
Aaron
female
says,
NPC.
have to tread carefully with that one.
You should have saw her in childhood. She was outrageously violent.
King's just
Outrageous!
kind of like nods and says, I see. Well, I suppose I have much to thank her for then.
Probably true. I think she's done more than most realize.
Smirks and says, if you were steeped in violence so early, well, it worked out for the best.
Could be why my defense is so good.
Tell me, why have I never seen her before?
She's remarkable at many things. However, socializing is not one of them. She likes to keep to herself. She's the brooding sort.
She's also a traveling cartographer now.
That's correct. Best in the West.
Is that so?
Is there...
Perhaps we should add some of her maps to our collection.
Would I have noticed the little sigil that she mentioned earlier on most of the maps that are already in the collection?
Probably not. I actually don't think Viris has like a super good handle on how prolific she is, just because like she doesn't talk to him much, and like the world at large doesn't really credit her with the amount that she's done. So like he would just have no way of knowing.
Gotcha.
But I'm guessing now that he knows about the little signature, he's gonna check everything.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say it as if I've known it the whole time and say, every map that bears this sigil that she mentioned earlier, those are done by her.
It's carved into the railing beside you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I tap my finger.
Vandalized now.
I'd tap my finger on the railing. Every map that bears this sigil can be credited to her.
The king scowls at the carving. And
Bring
says,
me her head.
I see. And is she a woodworker as well?
Unfortunately, I do not think that runs in her blood.
Then why is her signature on my banister?
Just a second. Much like her brother, she is a bit impetuous.
Oh, good word. Good word.
King just kind of smiles and nods and says, I see. I'm sure it will buff out.
Of course, I would never vandalize your stuff. It's the other kings that have to worry about that.
I choose to vandalize living humans. And by vandalize, I mean kill.
Permanent vandalism.
I'm sending them a permanent message.
King Aaron says, "Yes, well, so long as you can." And before he can finish the sentence, the Chancellor walks in with General Morris.
Chancellor.
Was
The
Crane
Chancellor
there?
says, Sir Viris, seems you've found a more productive way to spend your time.
Every second of my time is spent productively, Chancellor.
Just start
Don't
shit
mock me.
immediately.
He says, well, maybe I don't want the answer to the question I would have asked then.
Chancellor,
General
we don't spend
Ray.
enough time together. We really should hang out.
You, me, and Crane. Let's go see a movie.
We can go out on a boat or something and go fishing.
I feel like not one of you's coming back from that trip. The three of you go out on the water.
It's a real like the fucking frog and the scorpion story trying to cross the river.
If you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's very much Cliff Booth and his wife. if Crane gets alone on a boat with a Chancellor.
The Chancellor says, General Ray, you said you wanted to speak.
Mm-hmm. Matters have been on the drastic side, I'm afraid.
The king says, I was afraid of that. Come
Yep.
to the war room.
As Demeter is walking out, he'll
Trip the Chancellor.
He'll drag his hand along the banister and say, Chancellor, whenever you get a chance, it looks like the banister could use a little work.
Oh
It's
my
been
god!
unsightly.
Oh my fucking god!
The Chancellor kind of looks at it disapprovingly and says, I'll have someone take care of it.
Oh my god!
Fucking sick. Oh my god.
That is the... Someone's gonna link up burn centers.
Does the king like snarl at that or something?
Yeah, does Aaron... How does he react to that?
I think Ray, you're like far enough up in the pack that you can see King smirks a little bit as he hears that exchange behind him.
Yeah.
That's so
Oh my god.
awesome.
Actually, I think the king looks at Viris and says, "She upset Mr. Crane too."
I actually think I side with her on this one. I believe that he's been pestering her a little bit too harshly.
The king makes a little bit of a show of it and says, "No, Mr. Crane, he would never." You arrive in the war room.
I love the fact that it's just like literally 6 dudes that are just like best friends hanging out and then like having like super serious discussions like sometimes, and the rest is just like them gossiping and shooting the shit.
It's life in the inner circle, dude.
God, the lives are rich and powerful.
Yeah, it's like the line between Republican and Democrat.
God, I wish cigars were a thing. We should all be puffing cigars right now.
I mean, Demeter's always
It
had
could be a
his
thing. Yeah,
Nice.
Who invented
cigars
cigars?
could be a thing.
The
I don't
Cubans.
know.
Can I profit off of that?
Of course.
Sure, you could trade
All right.
cigars.
Absolutely. If cigars exist, I'm trading them.
Are they illegal anywhere? That's the real
Yeah,
question.
Can I smuggle?
It's one thing to trade, it's another thing
Why
to
they would
smuggle.
be illegal, but sure. Maybe
feel
they're
like
very
half
heavily
Star Stars they don't have.
taxed.
Yeah.
They don't allow it.
Tobacco's like a precious commodity.
Yeah, probably not illegal, but like really heavily taxed to where like smuggling it is basically the way to make a profit off of it.
Where's the tobacco
Otherwise,
grow?
it's very difficult.
Northern tribes.
They've got everything.
There has to be a
Probably
reason
just-
for us to invade them.
Probably just like in like the grassier areas. It's not gonna grow in like the volcanic mountains or the desert, but in the other parts of the kingdom it'll grow.
Demeter takes up his position in the corner with his pipe and props his feet up on the war table.
Don't we stand around the table?
Yeah.
Demeter stands and props his feet up on the war table.
How's he doing that? He just floats. No, he's Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's like doing a split between the war table and the chair.
Just one leg up.
Well, Ray,
Wait, where's the queen?
there are no women in the men's circle. Demeter, you know this.
Someone should invite the queen.
Just Demeter
I
say.
th-
Uh,
if he does, Ray would just say, I think King Aaron would want to first hear what I have to suggest before bringing the queen in on this.
fair play.
So thanks for meeting again so soon. I have two separate but equally as bold matters I'd like to go over. I made no secret of my displeasure with our current course of action. I had some time to think, and I think I have a solution. Mr. Crane, meaning no offense to you or your agents, I don't have much faith in your man. It's not a reflection of his abilities, but more just who he is. He's an unknown. By comparison, King Aaron, if a complete stranger approached you and professed to have intimate knowledge of what's going on, and offered to help on King Comb's behalf, and then returned to King Comb, pray tell, how do you think he would handle that?
Aaron,
If you'll
Aaron
indulge me.
kind of scoffs a little bit at it and says, at best, I think I would try to make him believe that he had succeeded. But I would certainly never trust him.
Ray would just nod my point exactly. Counterpoint, if somebody you did know, if I have my facts straight, maybe this Sir Halo came, and I don't know, say the roles were reversed and we were dealing with King Rorik. You might be a little more amenable now.
The king looks fairly serious in his reply to this and says, my relationship with Lord Halo is unique. I trust him completely.
I think if there's any hope of making contact with Jax, it would need to be with somebody he knows, and at the very least respects. And Ray would pause and let people kind of catch up to that. I think
King Aaron just immediately looks at Viris when
Yep.
you say that.
Some of you see where I'm going with this. It also occurs to me that so far, I stand by what I said. We've been doing exactly what Prince Jax wants, up to and including this trial. Which should we do with what we were planning to do and letting him off scot-free, I believe that reflects rather poorly on us in the neutral eyes of the court, no?
The Chancellor very quickly agrees with that and says, especially to houses besides the two of ours.
Exactly.
If nothing else, King Combe does have proof that 4 of his men were killed. And if we simply say that it didn't happen, or that, well, that Viris is innocent, he shrugs and says, it looks bad to the other kings.
So with all of that taken at face value, the solution seemed a bit obvious. We find Sir Viris guilty and send him back to King Combe's lands. At which point, of course, a daring escape would occur.
Aaron narrows his eyes and pays attention and continues listening.
Viris, you can maybe elaborate, but the impression I got was there was no small amount of mutual respect between you and the prince, no? Do you think there's a shred of a chance that you could meet him alone and have an earnest conversation?
I absolutely think I could go on a conversation with him. Whether he actually respects me or not, I do not know. But I think he'll meet with me.
It's a gamble to be sure, but most good maneuvers are. And if nothing else, even if worst case scenario happens, he's recaptured and we're able to kind of give Viris like a semi-apologetic look. Recaptured and given the noose. It puts us right back where we started. Only we've taken away one more leg up that King Combe had hoped to secure for himself.
You would sacrifice me for a political play?
I'd risk you for a greater play.
General Ray. Perhaps you're more deserving of credit than I initially thought.
Morris smiles at that.
I can't imagine the escape would be too hard to orchestrate. Maybe even fake his own death. Hit the escort with... It could be an attack, men without banners. Put a corpse in the wagon, set it on fire.
Be a pretty
Faking my
big
death
corpse.
seems difficult. I'm a big player. I'd like to become somewhat renowned in the future. I think an escape is better suited for me.
If reputation is of your concern, there are few things as remarkable as rising from the dead, no? But at this point, we're past my area of expertise. I think that's between you and Mr. Crane.
I have ideas.
I look towards Crane. Can you make it happen?
Of course. Sending you from here to there, the most efficient way would be by boat. Boats go missing all the time. Sink to the bottom of the ocean without cause.
There's a downtrodden castle that the prince led us to before he gave us the news of what King Combe was planning. I think that place holds significant value to the prince. We can meet him there.
I believe the ambassador would need to travel with you, so it might be prudent that he escapes and believes you didn't make it, if that's the route we wish to take.
Aaron says, I understand the inherent difficulty in this, but I think if Sir Viris escapes from our custody at any point, it will be seen as a fraud.
Exactly. It has to be there.
I think he must escape from House Gazash.
After a handoff's been made.
What if we hand me off in the Dawkins at the port? Have the Gazash men come and collect me.
I suppose that would be best if we bring you to House Garsage territory, it's very likely that King Combe will wish to
Execute me.
oversee this personally.
Is that
That
something
make
Kincombe would
matters
do, Randall?
complicated.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If he actually wants to kill me, which he might not. I don't know. And then Prince Jax would also be able to speak about that probably.
Oh, Jax would totally go and meet you too. So yeah, that's actually a good idea. You're right.
So wait,
No. We want him.
we want to hand me off at a port here, yeah?
Yes, to
Yeah, I
one
agree
of
with
their
that.
boats, their men. We arrange your escape at some point en route, because I believe if you arrive in House Garsage territory, it will not be long thereafter that King Combe summarily executes you.
Mhm.
Likely not, but Garzash is a bit of a person that likes to make a statement. He'd likely have me wheeled to a place where I could be shown off as a powerful play in front of his people. He's not just going to slaughter me at a port.
Do you think Combe or Jax would personally go on the boat trip?
Unlikely.
Jax might, but only if
I don't
Combe
think
sends
that
him.
King Combe, I doubt, would allow him to do that.
I think having the transport ship hit by some pirates might be a play.
I mean, these seas are basically belong to Demeter.
It's
King Aaron says, "Is it possible to arrange an escape that does not involve a third party?"
have Viris escape on his own. Is that what you're... of his own power?
The king nods and says, "That is how it must seem. I fear if any seemingly neutral party intervenes, it will be seen as my intervention.
Fair point.
I think no one will believe in the coincidence."
Probably true.
If there is a way to equip Severus with a plan and whatever materials he may need to make his own escape, unaided from House Garzash's men, that is the only way for this to work.
What type of retinue would they likely send to receive him?
Knights. Almost certainly.
Morris kind of nods in agreement with that and says, "King Garzash is arrogant. He doesn't trust commoners with anything. He'll want a lord overseeing it. Someone important." And Morris actually kind of shrugs and says, "I'd give it a coin's toss that it's actually the prince himself. Unless Combe has come to not trust Jax."
There's also a chance that he won't send Jax because he knows that he's interested in me.
That's very possible if Demeter's man makes contact before this goes down. Which, out of game, I think at this point he has already, or word's already got.
You haven't received word back yet.
Yeah.
But yes,
only
he should
been a
have.
couple
He
days.
should have made contact already.
Mm-hmm. Which, if
The
anything, I'd
timeline
take as a
works out
liability.
that it should have happened.
Only if he gets caught. And even if he gets caught, he knows the right moves.
He has a cyanide tablet. I am inclined to believe to go with Aaron's read on his role. I think Jax might humor the man and then turn him loose, with the intention of playing that against us.
It's possible.
The knights on the boat, the ones that I fought on the pier, were decently trained, but I could likely handle them with almost any weapon. He'll probably be more on guard with the ones that he sends on the boat.
The Chancellor says, and you'll be unarmed.
That's correct. There's a chance that I could kill them with my shackles, but I don't know.
The Chancellor says,
How?
if I'm being quite frank about what now seems like a possible weakness in our own procedures, if a prisoner was given to us in chains, I wouldn't replace the chains.
I was about to suggest that.
Could rig them.
Or one
The
step
ambassador-
one step further, could we get an expert blacksmith to perhaps conjure up some chains that could then be turned into or assembled into a weapon?
I do know an expert blacksmith.
Or conceal one in the chains himself?
And that would be difficult, and it would make the chains a lot more conspicuous.
There's a chance that the ambassador here would also check them beforehand, but
Fair.
I'm not sure.
King Aaron says, this may be nothing. I saw once an act in a circus. An escape act. A woman chained up. She invited the audience to inspect the chains. They found nothing amiss. And yet she completely shed her bonds in a matter of seconds. Do any of you know how such a thing could be possible? Such a deception? The Chancellor says, Sire, I have no idea, but I will promptly find this woman.
Was it here in this kingdom?
Aaron nods and says, several months ago, I think. She performed here in the capital, though I believe they were a traveling group.
From kingdom to kingdom, or from town to town?
He shrugs and says, I couldn't say.
Randall, by coincidence, in recent months up north, do I recall a circus ever coming through?
No.
Can we track them? No. So yes, Ray would chime in.
We're on the trail.
They made no visit to the Gulfs. At least in recent months.
Do we know when they left here? Did they head north or west?
The Chancellor says, I'll look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
A fine starting point, but we are on the clock here. Assuming we go with this plan, you would need to be found guilty tomorrow. And probably shipped out the same day or the day after.
Aaron kind of chuckles and shakes his head and says,
No?
No, General. You see, here in the South, we have an almost immeasurable ability to waste time in the proceedings of courts. It could take days or even weeks to find Viris guilty.
I think Ray would just smile then. That's one more advantage for us.
The Chancellor says, I've often said that I thought the Galston process of removing old laws had a significant boon to it. And the king says, undoubtedly so. You need to dredge up old laws to fuck about and waste time.
It also occurs to me that in the interest of fairness, the trial does rely on eyewitness accounts from the Horn. It's a long trip.
Yes, it does require witnesses. And okay, I guess this is a question for Randall. Would it be fair to say we could call witnesses from other kingdoms?
Yeah, is that a thing?
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, okay.
Yep.
That's
Would
what
it
that
be
ambassador's there for, is
Yep.
to, like, work with him.
All right. Could we subpoena a prince?
Oh, definitely not.
Fuck.
But what about a princess?
Well,
They would just... They would
I
just
call
never...
Princess Nita to the stand. So please, just
Character witness.
Look, why is the princess here?
Was he a
It's
gentle
not
lover?
that
Answer the
you-
question.
It's not that you couldn't ask for Prince Jax to come. It's just that they would never agree to that.
Yeah.
Like, the ambassador might never even deliver that demand. He'd just
Okay.
be like, no, fuck you. The fucking prince isn't coming here. Like, we're basically at war.
Okay.
Like,
Well, then I stand very corrected. We'll send for 4 random people who happen to be on the dock on a certain day. It seems we have nothing but time.
Can we subpoena knights?
The dead ones?
you probably wouldn't be, like, asking for specific people. You would just, like,
Yeah.
the ambassador's really the one that has to make the case, so he'd be the one to, like, pick the witnesses.
In fact, that would probably be the end of the first day of trial as we ask
And
the ambassador to gather his witnesses, and then we adjourn.
yeah,
Simple enough.
Also, like, for what it's worth, he's not going to bring commoners. Like,
Yeah.
no one really gives a shit about the word of a commoner. Like, nobles will come and testify. Because their word actually means something. Like, nobles, religious figures, people like that, their word is, like, useful in court. Just like a fucking guard that's like, yeah, Viris, like, rode by me and killed somebody. They'd be like, yeah, sure. You say so.
But Sir What's-His-Face we'd listen to him.
Right. Because noblemen never lie.
Got it. All right.
Subpoena Prince Jax, but could we request he make an official statement that be delivered unopened and read in front of the court?
Yeah, you could request anything, but, like,
I'm gonna
You know,
legal counsel the
it
fuck
all-
out of it.
it all depends on
This is
how
gonna
you
take
phrase it and
years.
how much the ambassador hates you. The ambassador already hates Viris a lot because Viris
Well,
made a real
A jab at his
real
mama.
impression.
They just argued for like 4 hours on a boat.
Demeter's a very personable man.
Mhm.
He makes friends very easily.
You're gonna show up in his bedroom in the middle of the night.
I've been expecting
Ambassador,
you.
I've read your
Ambassador.
journal, and your life is quite droll.
It sounds like we have a plan then.
So
Somewhat
we
of
have
one,
a
at least.
plan, the vague markings of a plan, and
What percentage of a plan? 20%.
and we have a way to garner time.
If there's nothing else to add to that, I do have a very unrelated, but considerably more daring thing I'd like to attempt. Or at least propose we attempt. A goal of mine in recent and coming weeks has been to bring the kingdoms together. If war is a continued threat, I'd very much like to see our troops working together more, so I've been working on that. One such thing is we're putting together a tournament, the Chancellor Morris and I, as suggested by the princess, but it also occurs to me that the people that will be convincing there are probably the people that don't need convincing. And Ray kind of exhales. Few things bring a people together like a common enemy. And I had the thoughts of putting together a false flag operation. Perhaps something against the Northern Tribeslands. And I just stare at Cody out of game.
Go on.
With a "you're welcome."
False flag, you say?
Yes, I've also become quite interested in the Northern Tribeslands.
Chancellor says, I've also become quite interested in the Northern Tribeslands. Wait, why are we interested in the Northern Tribeslands?
They insulted my family. And for that they must pay.
This could take many different forms, which ultimately fall on you, King Aaron. And if you're vehemently opposed, it could just be dead here. But I did want to suggest it. I do believe it would help.
The king thinks for a second and says, I understand the utility of it. You're right. Some sort of military operation in the Northern Tribeslands would bring about cohesion between our armies much more rapidly than the tournament or anything else. I must, however, at the very least, question the political optics of it.
Of course, there's a great deal of unknowns.
To my knowledge, no one is particularly sympathetic to the tribes. No one would take personal offense at it. However, the mere act of aggression could harm our favor.
I think it goes without.
I think
Good.
if this is done, it must appear just. And in order to appear just, it may require, well, actual justice.
We somehow provoke them into drawing first blood.
He thinks for a second and then says, yes. We'll find some other route.
Ray would look at Viris and say, well, by sheer coincidence, we've been graced with the presence of something of an expert on the territory.
That's correct.
If I understand her story accurately, that Pierce and Alvarez has spent the last 6 years in and around the Northern Kingdoms. I was asking her some questions about it while we were waiting up on the balcony back there.
King says, "Oh,
I look at the map on the table.
It's the symbol.
And I run my hand along the bottom left corner, which I imagine has the sigil.
it does have the mark.
Yes.
However, this is not the map that was the subject of the bet."
Yeah, I know.
The one in my house.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I look and say, an expert is probably putting it lightly, to be honest, General. Although she is apparently on doctor's orders to remain here for over a year.
For starters,
Morris says,
Good.
"What happened to her?"
Apparently she was wounded by the peoples up there.
A disagreement with the natives.
Out of game, was I not listening? Sorry, I was tuned out earlier. Did she actually say she was tortured?
Yeah,
that-
she did.
Good.
Yeah.
But Viris would not mention that here.
Well, Ray would.
What?
I believe her words were tortured.
Viris gives you a look.
The king raises an eyebrow and says, "She was tortured."
That was the word she used. I didn't press her on it.
Jemiter starts
The Chancellor.
looking for his war justification chart to see if
Yeah, the Chancellor leans very far forward over the table and looks at Viris and says, "Will she testify to that?"
The three of us will start laughing.
You should ask her yourself, Chancellor.
Oh.
I don't think I should.
I'll save you the time. I'd bet the answer is no.
General
Not
Morris says,
willingly.
"Why the hell not?"
Pride.
Yes.
She harbors a special kind of disdain for basically anybody of our station. Viris can maybe tell us more.
Yes, she doesn't particularly like you lot. Probably me also.
The Chancellor says, "Who does she like?"
No one. Not a single
Shit.
person in this kingdom does she like.
So much for our tortured patriot.
No.
King Aaron says, "Sir Viris,
Yes, my king.
you understand that the torture of a noble bannerwoman, a dame, under my house, is cause for such an operation as we are discussing."
Of course, but she was not specific on the time range of when this torture happened.
Nor need she be.
You don't think
She's
that that's
only
important?
just returned.
Besides, dates around here, they get mixed up all the time.
We all
Forgive
just
me that I'm not privy to y'all's politics yet, but I think I'm picking up what you're putting out.
Gerard used
The
to
I
say
mean-
Chancellor
that.
says, "Was anyone with her? Does she explore alone?
No, she was with a crew.
We should find those men. Or women?"
Knowing her, it's likely a combination.
Well, we should find them. See if they are more amenable than she. If they'll testify that a dame under House Addershance was tortured by one of these tribes, then he kind of just gestures to the table and says, "Our offensive is as good as go."
Surely would save us a lot of civilian casualties.
There'd be nothing false about the flag.
General Morris puts his hand on Viris' shoulder and says, "And it would let you get back at the bastards."
And
I
take
wasn't
their
planning
precious
to-
paynite.
Yeah. The tigers and paynite will fall right into our. Yeah. I would smile at Morris and say, I was planning to do this discreetly, honestly, but if we're going to make this an operation, then so be it. I'll give him a nod.
The Chancellor does his usual thing of tapping his finger on the table and biting his lip and trying to decide whether or not he should propose his idea.
Speak, Chancellor. Keep still, not your tongue.
What the fuck?
Everyone has to speak creepily to him.
Just fuck off! Like,
The Chancellor just
yo, dog, look, I got something to say.
Yeah, he's-
and says, "This is a bad idea." Do you think the dame would speak with the queen?
Randall, do
It
I have
seems
any
to
reason to
me
think that
if
the queen would be like
anyone-
more sympathetic to her?
She's a woman.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, the
So-
Chancellor
Sorry,
says,
just continue. Yeah.
I think if anyone might defy your sister's expectations of a noble, it would be Queen Iso.
Is that so?
King
So-
Aaron says, I can safely say she would not make the error I made today in speaking with the dame.
So I kind of grew up with her. Like, is there any merit to that? Is she like a little bit less noble-y than other nobles?
Yes, that is true. She's very much like a woman of the people.
Like Tom Zarek.
And like what you do at least know, knowing, like you said, you kind of do have a decent handle on Pirsha, but even if you knew nothing about Pirsha, just like fucking everybody loves ISO. Like,
Okay.
She's going to take
She's-
offense to that.
Yep.
she's like one of the most just widely respected humans.
Okay. So Ray would point that out. I don't disagree, but she will have two distinct preconceived notions to overcome. The fact that she is so beloved will be held against her. And she will only have to prove Pirsha wrong, and that she's not a noble, or doesn't behave as most nobles do.
There's really no reason not to try, I suppose. I did talk Pirsha into staying for a couple more days in the capital.
Yes, I think it's either Queen Iso or Sir Viris. Or perhaps a combination of the two. It certainly won't be any of the rest of us.
Not Demeter?
I think that maybe I should speak to her.
I'll tell you what, I'll deliver that letter for you.
Attempt number 5. I'm feeling good about this one, boys.
I'm like the FedEx guy. Fuck it. A failure to deliver. We tried to reach you, but
We'll try again
We'll try-
tomorrow at the same
try
fucking time.
tomorrow.
How does King Aaron react to that?
Yeah, he just kind of nods in approval, and he says, "Well, it would seem foolish to underestimate her."
Seems to be a common theme among House Novaris.
Elvaris.
Novaris?
Navaris. But different dialects. I'm not that picky.
We all sound like New Yorkers in the desert. It's weird.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm walking here.
I suppose this would also be a good forum to throw out the possibility that I represent Sir Viris in his coming trial.
Does that sound insane to us, Randall? I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, who else would do it? The Chancellor? Fuck that guy. He's been
Yeah.
Like, this will probably get back to Combe in a report. So, like, how does that look? How weird does that look from the ambassador, like, reporting this back? Yep, and his representation was King Aaron's spy master. Like, what?
Well, yeah, the person representing you should be on your side.
I think if Viris is proven innocent, it looks really bad.
Ooh.
If he's
We're gonna prove him
proven guilty, it almost like looks better.
I think if he's proven guilty, it looks like, oh, they're up to something.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, they're not going to be like, oh, they happen to find him
Well,
guilty by due trial process.
It was on Demeter's. I mean, there's no way that they don't know Demeter planned the trip, right? In like some way or another.
It's literally his ship.
Yeah.
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 So if he's defending me and then I'm proven guilty at the very end, like they would probably think Demeter either threw it on purpose so that I'm proven guilty. I don't know. Seems risky. Give me someone dumb like the Chancellor.
I suppose a lot of this will lie on who his opposition is and how much of a show they put on.
Yeah, who's the prosecution?
Is there usually a lot of shouting in court in the South?
Oh.
I mean, if you want,
The-
Demeter can also play the
king
prosecution.
chuckles and says, "Yes."
I think the more
Chancellor says,
the more dramatically
"In all
he's found guilty, the
likelihood."
better it looks. Sorry, continue.
The Chancellor says, "In all likelihood, the case against him will be largely presented by the ambassador from House Garzash."
Well, he doesn't like me, so I'd be fine with Demeter representing me.
I mean, we're looking for somebody who can stall this out as long as possible, right?
The king sort of just shrugs and says, "I see no particular political ramifications either way. Those who think that Demeter Crane is meddling in the trial will think so whether Demeter is present or absent."
Exactly.
Fair.
Very good point.
I'd rather do all my meddling
If
up front
anything,
where everyone can see me.
if Mr. Crane can very convincingly attempt to prove Sir Viris innocent, and then loses, it may even draw suspicion away from Mr. Crane.
My thoughts exactly. I'll put up a good show.
The king says, "Very well then. I believe we have our course."
Does Demeter manipulate the pieces on the board again?
No, not everyone's left yet. I have to wait for everyone to leave.
We're all just looking at the king, waiting for him to,
To leave again so we can talk shit?
All right, you can all go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he gets the fuck
Yeah.
He's like, you're dismissed, and he doesn't move.
he
Balls in your court, bitches.
kind of just looks around to see if anyone else has anything to say, and then he kind of knocks twice on the table, and winks at Morris, because that's like
Oh.
Morris's thing that he does every time he leaves.
Weird.
It really is like a boys' club back here.
Yeah, it is.
The king walks away.
It's just 6 best friends
Note
hanging out.
that in order for the king to know that Morris does that when he leaves, he would have had to have eavesdropped at least once
Oh
after
god.
he left.
As a fucking fellow, like, leader of men, Ray would... That's fucking brilliant. Like, that is a brilliant fucking strategy. Like, leave your men publicly and then listen to what the shit they say after you leave. It's fucking brilliant. Like... I think Ray would even, if he makes eye contact, he would fucking, like, respect, like, give him a look. Like, he sees what's going on.
Silver, like, turns and looks at Morris. Like, his eyes go a little bit wide. And yeah, in the brief silence after the king leaves, Morris shrugs and says, "Fuck it. Got no secrets to hide from him." And he knocks twice on the table and then leaves.
It's more like 5 best friends.
Yeah.
And the Chancellor.
The 3 of us just immediately start talking between each other and exclude the Chancellor.
So you guys want to go out for drinks? Yeah! And, like, we just slam the door in his
Yeah.
face and...
Fuck yeah, we all do a triple high five.
Yeah,
Never coughs.
Ray would go too. Ray goes back to his sweet manner.
The
An existential crisis or
the
something?
chancellor looks at Demeter and says, "Well, should I talk?" Or actually, before Ray leaves, I think he probably asks this. The chancellor says, "Well, should I speak to the queen or general?"
I think maybe Viris and I should go meet her.
Seems appropriate. Besides, I'm
The chancellor
sure the
nods.
Chancellor is very busy.
The last time, I'm remembering the
says-
last time we had to go talk to
Oh.
her, he was like really scared too. Like very Gerard and
Yeah.
Zinhea, so I'll just immediately get him off the hook.
There's a
Chancellor says,
banister that needs refurbishing.
Haven't you forgotten your other duties?
the chancellor like waves his hand as if to completely dismiss that, and says, "Apparently, I have to find a circus escape artist,
You gave yourself that job.
and I don't even know where to begin."
Perhaps you should
And
check with
he-
House Roik.
I happen to know a man who's very well connected.
he leaves.
Coward.
Well, should we go find her now, Viris, or is later better?
No time like the
Overstimulating Pirsha does not seem like a good.
No, the queen. I
The
think.
queen.
Yeah. But I would imagine she would then go seek Pirsha out, and then that would be a problem.
I mean, we
I
can
have some-
schedule their
Is
meeting.
Pirsha a fucking cat?
Yes.
Overstimulating.
Basically.
She's a little overstimulated right now.
Basically, she is a cat. She hates everything, and she wants praise, but does not want attention.
She is a teenage girl.
That is what she wants.
Praise, but she doesn't want attention.
That is Pirsha.
You're right. Like, she is every teenage girl.
She is a cat.
Oh, fuck me. She
Yeah.
wants praise, but she doesn't want it. It's so fucking funny.
On that note, I actually think maybe Viris should be present for a meet between her and the queen. I certainly
don't know,
shouldn't
maybe
be.
just like girl talk. Some girl talk, you know?
No, you don't understand. Pirsha does not like the queen. She is going into it without knowing the queen at all. But she hates her.
Do you disagree that the queen should be the one to broach the subject with her?
I think out of everyone here, out of any of the royals, that she's probably the best. But I don't think that there is a good person to do this. Her pride is on the line.
Do you
That
think
is
there's
all
anything
she
to
has.
gain from you being present with her meet?
She's already told it to me, so she might not mind if I'm present.
Yeah, I
But
think
that would depend on
the
if
queen-
the queen is comfortable with me being present.
the queen approaching her and bringing up the torture apropos of nothing is a very bad look, I think.
Pirsha is extremely intelligent. She's not going to fall for this ploy. If a random noblewoman just approaches her, she's going to be on her guard.
That's why I think it's best if you're there to at least introduce the idea. Throw me under the bus, I don't care.
That will likely have to be done. You have insulted her pride, and she is going to take that personally.
I took that personally.
I raised a daughter. I've been doing that for 20 plus years. It's nothing new. So what then? Do you want to give it a day?
I think that's probably best. I have a meeting with Kellum. soon.
Understood. Is there anything else then?
I don't believe so.
All right. Gentlemen, and Ray would go.
Viris would go.
Make Morris go next. Make Morris go next.
Morris is already
Morse
gone.
is gone.
Oh, he's
Morse
already.
is-
Oh, that's right. He's gone. Perfect.
Yeah.
So who's left at the table?
Just Demeter.
I thought the Chancellor was there too.
No,
No, Chancellor's gone.
Oh,
That's
fuck.
right. I made the remark about the banister.
Oh, you're right. Damn it. All right. What does Demeter do to the game pieces?
Demeter he takes his feet up off the table and he gets up out of his chair.
There's no chair.
He was relaxing then. And he he will grab the Demeter token, and he will place it upon the mountains up in the northern tribeslands. And then he will sort of caress the mountain, and he says, "Soon."
Yes.
Then he reaches under and pulls out some Jaguar tokens. Puts them all around him.
No one will be able to stop me.
Demeter's making a play to be like the 10th kingdom. The northern tribeslands is ruled by Demeter Crane.
They need someone to unite them.
Yep.
The king beyond the wall.
The king beyond the wall. The king of the north.
The king of the north.
Earn tribelands.
They just need someone to unite them. They're stronger than they know.
Alright.
And Demeter will leave the room.
Alright. I think that's probably where we'll end.